Coming to you living from my apartment. It's Rob Has a Podcast. And now here's the guy who's about to bring you 3,000 calories worth of podcast. I am Rob Cesternino. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our feedback show here as we are now 12 weeks into the Survivor season. And we had, in my mind, the best Survivor episode in years to talk about. And so it is my great pleasure to bring in an incredible friend, one of the most talented people around, of course, that you can hear him on so many different podcasts across post-show recaps, RHAP, most notably, or I guess notably, of the B&B over on RHAP, talking about Survivor every single week. Give it up for Mike Bloom.
Thank you, as always, for the kind words, Rob. Though I don't know if this is the week to call someone an incredible friend. I think we saw perhaps the limits of friendship on Survivor this week. Ironically
I couldn't do it to you, Mike. I couldn't do to you.
I mean, ironically enough, though, we realize now the idols this season were friendship bracelets. And look what happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It didn't work out. It didn't work out.
Yeah, they were, not only were they from a wardrobe perspective, specifically bracelets, but you had to get a bead from everybody on the tribe. So you had to actually create a friendship bracelet as an idol this season. And here we see it become, Cody put it, a totem of trust in my interview, but it was a totem of distrust. And indeed, the friendship bracelet was severed. The camp friends no longer in Jesse and Cody. Holy crap, Rob. We get to talk about this episode. How lucky are we now?
We're so lucky that we get to do this. Of course, Mike is the king of dressing up for podcasts. And so he went Hawaiian shirt. I think I had on a sweater and a vest before. Now I'm down to a Hawaiian shirt also in solidarity for Mike Bloom.
Thank you. Yeah, listen, the temperatures may be plunging, but we are here. Much like I assume in Hawaii, this is how they honor their dead, by wearing Hawaiian shirts. Mine has surfers on it, to go back to the shoehorned in analogy. I'm not sure if Cody even surfs, yet he somehow had to talk about surfing because he just resides naturally in the land where that is the activity of choice. So yeah, happy to be here. I have my coffee, if it has not already been indicated by my pattern of speech. I am hopped up on caffeine right now, and much like Cody, ready to make some bad sleepless decisions as well.
Yeah. I'm on my second espresso here this afternoon, so ready to go, baby.
Exactly.
No Danish for me though.
No, I think I'm like Romanian and a little bit Irish, but yeah, I'm not Danish. Don't take a bite out of me if you want 3,000 calories, is all I'm saying.
Okay. I did a lot of coffee, a protein bar, and I've been really obsessed with chocolate covered rice cakes. That's really, I'm so into it. I try to find them wherever I go. I find that often in the kosher foods aisle.
Look at this. Well, yeah. The Jews can provide many great things in this world, including your new nosh, in a manner of speaking.
Yeah, I love it.
I've gotten into not rice cakes, but I guess rice cakes adjacent. We've gotten a lot into popcorn cakes around here.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Which are like little popcorn chips, because I love me some popcorn. I'm like Michaela at a Game
T-Bird.
Changer. Yeah, exactly. Like I love to pop them, but I like the ability to feel healthy, even though it markedly is less healthy. Do you think in a future Survivor season, instead of just giving them rice outright to cook, they could give them rice cakes?
Rice cakes? No, because they do not hold up well in any sort of humidity as a rice cake expert. Mike, we got a shout out to you. Alexandra says, Mike, a big hello from a fellow Romanian.
Hello, Alexandra. I don't know if that's how Romanians talk.
Yeah. All right. So we have had a great week on the podcast so far. Really fun know-it-alls. We have an exit interview with Cody. Of course, Mike talked to Cody over on parade.com. We will be discussing that as well. But a really, really fun podcast with Jamal. Went like 2 hours and 40 minutes with Jamal last night. Longest recap, I think, of the season. Was right up there. I'm not sure. Did we get to?
I think him and Adam were really neck and neck.
And Christian too.
Oh, of course, yeah. Christian, like, add 3 hours onto anything that Christian Hibiki has to say in a good way.
Mhm.
Really love the Jamal podcast. I really appreciated the kind words that he had to say. Of course, it is very much reciprocated. Anyone who was out there on set for Survivor 39 can tell you how much, like, after I interviewed, with no offense to the rest of the cast, Jamal specifically, like, I kept telling them, like, they got to watch out for Jamal. Like, Jamal has such a fantastic head on his shoulders, has an athletic background, has a great head for this game. I just love talking Survivor with him. And that very much played out as well. Now, listen, did I agree with everything? Absolutely not. But that is why this community is so great, is that there is no uniformity when it comes to these opinions. Groupthink does not prevail, much like we're seeing at the end game of Survivor 43.
Well, Jamal, I think, is such a great podcast guest because he's going to come in and have like really interesting opinions. And I love to talk those through with him. And so that he will be a staple on this podcast as long as I do it.
A staple, much like a rice cake in Survivor 46.
Yeah. All right. So a lot to get to. We're live here with our Survivor feedback show here on a Friday. So this will be a fun one to do here today. We can take your questions and your feedback as well live here during the show.
I'm finding relatives in the chat, apparently. This is relatives my own Emily and Molly-esque story.
Yeah. Mike, how's your day going so far?
I mean, it's going fantastic. We have had a week, Rob, and I guess this is sort of the warm-up week for what happens next week, right? Where you and I get to interview the final 5 of Survivor 43. This week, not only do we get to interview Cody, but we also got to interview the final 3 from the Amazing Race 34, which had its finale.
We've been eating.
We really have. We went to our own sanctuary, and unlike the actual sanctuary, good things are happening to us. That's the thing. I know Jeff is trying to brand this sanctuary thing, but is the sanctuary not the bad place on Survivor? Like, the sanctuary is cursed, is it not? Like, all the times we've gone to the sanctuary, so if you look at just this season, right? We have Carla, Cody, and Owen going there. That's when really things start building against both Carla and Cody by Gabler at camp. Of course, we have everything with Noelle that's going to actually push Jesse to turn against her. Last season at the sanctuary is when Omer plants the bug in Mike's ear about turning against Hai. Even in Survivor 41, Shannon and Ricardo are sitting next to each other watching, videos from home, and they're like, all right, I'm going to get rid of this person ASAP. It seems like a little bit of a wait time, a trip to the sanctuary gives these people an opportunity to just absolutely cut each other's throats.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Maybe it's just all like rewards away from the camp this happens. But I do have a feedback question somewhat about this from Ben.
Hey, Rob and Mike, it's Ben here. I was pretty annoyed that they went back to the Survivor Sanctuary for another reward in the same season. I get it. There's budget cuts on Survivor, but like you could think of a new reward. So what do you think? Did it annoy you too? And if so, like what's another like cheap reward that they could have done instead of going back to this stupid sanctuary?
The stupid sanctuary.
Yeah, it's a stupid sanctuary. Like
the architecture is beautiful there. Let's not impugn the Survivor art team. They built a masterpiece. Though I don't know in this version, will they have the projections of the final 5 on the logs like the way Jeff has started out the previous 2 finales?
I don't know. It'll be interesting. We will talk, I'm sure, about like what the format of this finale is going to be. But is the sanctuary sort of like the central perk of the Survivors? Would you like to see it instead of like, oh, it's stupid that they did it twice? No, should every reward be at the sanctuary?
Yeah, I mean,
that's like the cafeteria.
I do love Jeff Probst as the Gunther here, right? Or if we're going back to a show that's more beloved to you, Rob, is this the Max? And Jeff is now the poor downtrodden magician that's trying to do tricks for people.
Well, if AC Slater comes out and then everybody will think that like, oh, we're here for a reward. Like, no, you're on Too Hot to Handle.
Exactly. Where's Lana? She's coming in. Your $1 million. You thought you were playing for $1 million. Now it's down to $30,000.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
nobody hooks up on Survivor anymore. Yeah.
Well, though, if you made a different version of Too Hot to Handle, where it's like too big to blindside, where you can't blindside someone or money's taken out of the pot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you have to build actual relationships with people and keep them, and not go back on your word. Sounds like a worse show. Yeah.
But you put like the most cutthroat Survivor people in there, right? Like you put Russell in there. You put, I guess, Jesse most recently in there. Like their base tendencies are to betray, are to blindside. Would they do that in the pursuit of a greater prize pool?
I guess save that for Paramount Plus. All right, Mike, we've got so much real Survivor to talk about. I'm sure we'll get into a lot of the nonsense along the way, but you and I haven't had the chance to talk about this episode. Mike, of course, we all know you are a world famous Survivor historian, been podcasting. That was really, your big break into podcasting, becoming a Survivor historian. Can you just give us sort of the where in history does this fall for you as a Survivor moment or moment?
Exactly. I don't want to be too hyperbolic, but allow me to be hyperbolic. From an individual perspective, this has to be one of the most impressive maneuvers I have ever seen in the history of the show. And I get a couple of qualifiers there. I said impressive. I did not say best because there's a big ellipses at the end of this episode that we will certainly talk about as to, whether or not this is the move that wins Jesse the game. And individual, I also specify because Survivor at its heart is such a cooperative game. And this to me feels so distinctly different than a lot of other big monumental moves that we and other players like to talk about. Rob, preseason, when we asked, what's your favorite Survivor moment? What did 75% of them say? Black Widow Brigade takes the immunity necklace from Eric Reichenbach. This feels distinctly different to me. That was a little bit more of a heist, right? That is something where each and every person has a part to play. This seemed like an effort made by one person. And maybe things will come out after the fact of like, oh no, Owen actually helped float the idea out to Jesse to suggest this thing. But the more we find out about it, the entire campaign that this one man, ironically enough, a political science PhD, was able to mount here, even not necessarily thinking about what may come in the final few days of the game, was just not only incredible, but eviscerating. Like, it is absolutely brutal. Brutal with all the capital letters that you can absolutely imagine. Just the pure idea of not only blindsiding your closest ally, not only holding onto their idol and using it on somebody else, not only playing an idol to get someone else, a power player, next up on the chopping block to use their own idol, but to do that successfully and successively in all one round. Like, the immensity of it is something that I think absolutely goes down in Survivor history. I think if you look back at the season, and I did, there are so many things that point to this. I think no matter what happens in the finale, this is the thing this season will be remembered for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. I said this with Jamal yesterday. I think whether Jesse wins or whether Jesse loses, this will be the moment that you will look back, because if Jesse wins, this will be the moment that Jesse won the game. If Jesse loses, whatever happens, you'll say, yeah, but Jesse did that thing. Like, Jesse should have won.
Yeah, I very much think so. And I think that's what the finale is going to be, with no offense to these other four lovely people that are there alongside him. But I think because of the momentum that really built to a frenzy this past episode, I think largely the Survivor fan community's mind is going to think of this finale as it's either going to be Jesse wins or Jesse loses. And I think, unfortunately it does a disservice to those other people. And I'm sure we could talk about their, very fitting games as well. But this was just such a giant effort. I mean, I really love this episode. To your point, it's tough for me to really say whether or not this is the best episode of the modern era. If I don't want to be fancy fencerchin, it feels different than something like the Shan vote, which if you put like a gun to my head, I would say would probably be like my favorite. But there's two different stories being told there, right? The Shan vote was a coup. It was this person's in charge. We're all going to gather, the proletariats are going to overthrow the bourgeoisie. We're going to, make Survivor socialism happen, in a manner of speaking. And we got to see one person fall so drastically over the course of one episode. This was an assassination.
Yes.
This was one person had an idea of taking this one person out, and they enacted this plan. And so I think it really depends on like what you sort of look forward to. I think they're both incredibly well told stories, and I thought this episode in particular did a really telling a cohesive story from beginning to end.
So I would say that I am less fancy fencerton on that, and certainly the Shan boot episode is a really, really good one, and probably the best episode of that season. But while Shan was probably a bigger figure in season 41 than Cody was in season 43. I think the story really was Shan leaving, and not so much in the plan that it took to ultimately get rid of Shan. It wasn't a particularly like impressive vote that happened. Basically, Ricard kind of said, "Hey, I'm turning on Shan." Went to people. I think the thing that was kind of interesting was that there was like getting Danny and Deshaun to in on it also, and splitting the vote with Shan and Liana. And so there were parts of it that were interesting, but this to me was like an all-time great Survivor move, as opposed to the most important player in the season being taken out.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's picking your poison, whether it's like one of the most important characters of the season being the head of this move, and again, making this like very gutting yet very monumental decision, or the biggest character of the season so far getting taken out. I think those are two very big ones. Of course, people also mention the vote where Marianne takes out Omer. I think that was really fantastic as well.
Really great too.
What is interesting is if Jesse does win this, I think we can now look to, in this modern era, the final 6 vote as arguably like the crowning vote of the season. Because if, obviously Jesse makes his move here, we talk about Marianne using the extra vote to help take out Omer. Even in 41, people might not remember, that's the, Truth Bomb Tribal Council, right? Where they essentially get Deshaun to like try to pit Erica and Heather against each other. And then Erica kind of does this badass thing at Tribal Council, right? Where like they end up completely blindsiding Deshaun, voting out Danny. And then Erica kind of like taps him on the shoulder, like, "Oh, thanks, friend, by the way, for essentially showing your whole ass to the jury before I end up taking you there at the end of the day." So I think that for whatever reason, maybe it's because the end game has now been kind of filled with things that don't necessarily result in normal votes. This final 6 vote ends up becoming like really the moment that a lot of these winners could turn to as like, yeah, this is when I actually metamorphosis in a manner of speaking and become the person that you should give $1 million to.
Yeah, and I think there's reasons for the final 6 being so important. Obviously, the final 5 being the last chance that you have to play the idols. I think that there is a little bit more of an urgency to try to make plans to take out the people who have the known idols in the game. We need to make the move at the final 6. Famously, we had Advantage Get-In, which was at the final 6, which was sort of like set off by the legacy advantage only being able to be played at the final 6.
Were you surprised that the Consumer Cellular commercial this week featured Surya and was not about Advantage Get-In?
Interesting. Yeah, I did have a question about Consumer Cellular. We can get to that later on in the show. But I think that those are completely random. I think they have no sort of like, nobody's looking at the Survivor schedule. I think they're just coming up with a list of things.
You think or they just went to YouTube and they were like, heartwarming Survivor moments. They're like, yeah, I like what this eager turtle person is doing. Just kind of chop up these 1-minute clips and put them out through the course of 4 months.
Yes. I think that's pretty much exactly. I mean, remember, Mike, when we were they had them on The Amazing Race?
Well,
and they did 2 of them. One was the lady getting hit in the face with the watermelon, and then the second one was like, remember the royal wedding? Like, wait, I thought we were talking about The Amazing Race. We couldn't find 2 Amazing Race moments.
Who would have thought Consumer Cellular would be so prophetic? Like I think they were watching and said, we can make a Netflix documentary about the royal family. Let's make this happen now. Harry and Meghan ran so that Consumer Cellular could walk.
For sure. Also, just going back to this final 6 of it all, in season 41, 42, you did have the do or die at the final 7, which also kind of like made it where you couldn't necessarily do what you wanted to do at the final 7 because of all of the complications of the do or die. So it happens more organically here because of the idols at the final 6. But yeah, I mean, I had said coming into this post-merge that especially after we divided into 2 groups and we got to the final 8, and I felt like, okay, watch out. Like this is going to be for the first time in the modern era. We're going to see a bunch of like normal Survivor post-merge votes in a row. And that was thrilling to me. And the season has delivered. And it's amazing, Mike, when you let Survivor players who know what they're doing play Survivor, good things happen.
It's stunning. It's as if you put people on the island who know the show and love the show, give them maybe a few toys to play with, but largely their imaginations. They'll create great TV out of it. Absolutely. I will say now, looking back on the season, and I know it's not completely done yet, I think this season is going to grow on people. I think it has really hit a hot streak as of late, culminating in what some people are saying as not only one of the best episodes, in the past couple of years, but maybe in a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think, like, yes, there are comments about the pre-merge being slow, but like the pre-merge still had Ryan throwing a challenge and accidentally getting his closest ally voted out.
Mm-hmm.
The pre-merge still had the saga of Gabler, coming in with an idol, then claiming he was going to play his shot in the dark anyway. There were still moments that were there. And I actually went back and reviewed my notes. And I think this season, and I don't know if they meant to do this, but in my opinion, Survivor 43 is going to play better on the binge.
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I wonder, Mike, if you were the person who have said this earlier in the season, that maybe there was sort of like a San Juan del Sur type upside for this season, where I think that during the real time, we're old enough to remember what that was like. People were not really high on that season. And it was like a great post-merge run by Natalie. And it was a great story and a very satisfying season in hindsight. But in the real time, certainly in the first half of the season, people were not feeling that great.
Well, I think there were a couple of things about this. And one of them ties into perhaps a bit the big to-do that both of us took away from our Cody interview, right? Is this detail we did not see, the crucial thing that Jesse did in order to get Cody's idol back, which is him planting this seed that Carla could possibly have knowledge is power. And maybe the reason why she's asking, hey, let's pull out our friendship bracelets and Wonder Twin powers activate at Tribal Council, is so she can flat out just rob you of it. And I think it's because, for whatever reason, in Survivor 43 especially, they have made this decision to save that type of stuff for the beginning of the next episode, right? That we certainly come out of Tribal Council and it makes helps line our pockets a bit as analysts, but we're certainly left with some questions. Why did this person vote this way? Why did this thing happen? Why does Carla end up voting Sammy? And we can certainly speculate. But then we get to the top of the next episode coming back from Tribal Council and they'll say, oh, this thing actually happened and you didn't see it. When you string the episodes together, I think that's going to play a lot better than having to sit on it for 6 days and not have that question immediately answered.
Mm-hmm. Maybe could we get a re-edit of the season where everything happens in the order it actually happened, Mike? And then maybe
chronologically Survivor. I love it.
Chronologically Survivor, where all the moments and the flashbacks are in the order where it should have happened.
I mean, that certainly is, I think, a fun way to see things. What was so interesting about, because I will say, sometimes the edit did miss the mark. I wasn't a big fan of that convention. I will also keep beating the drum that I think the big ball they dropped this season was editing a lot of major, perhaps the exception being Cody and Jesse. I think what it really did well this season was dropping in so many little nuggets that we did not realize throughout this season to perhaps lead to this very moment that we're talking about. I'll give you an example.
Please.
In the beginning of episode 8, where this was right after the Dwight Tribal Council, where everyone was doing, the Yankee swap of advantages, essentially, in honor of the holiday season. Cody gives this confessional where he's looking at the fire and he says, he's sort of musing about like, oh, well, that sucks for Janine. God gave her idol to Dwight and he got voted out. When you give your idol to somebody, you got to be really careful about who you pick. And I feel like throughout, we were just getting little drips and drabs. Jesse talks all the way back in the first couple episodes about like, do I want to make friends or do I want to make the big play? Jeff Probst's first speech to these players on the mat is essentially this idea of, you came out here to play. You're here for a reason. Enjoy yourself. But at the end of the day, do this for you and make the moves that you want to do. And not to, again, besmirch, 16 other people's journeys, but there were so many little things that we obviously didn't know at the time that were building towards this one big thing that was happening. Jeff said in an interview on the Friendship Onion podcast with Dominic Monaghan and Billy Boyd, that's a sentence I never thought I'd say in my lifetime. But he said that sometimes when they edit Survivor, they edit it like a murder mystery. I guess in honor of Glass Onion, perhaps. This idea of like, in the moment, you don't necessarily know who done it, but maybe there are clues pointing back, almost mole-esque, to indicate who done it in a manner of speaking. And I do think when you watch the season back.
Can I ask a question? And as Mike is frozen up here for a second, what I would love to know is
even just
yeah, Mike, here, hold on. Let me just have you say that one more time because you cut out. Is the who done it who won the season, or the who done it is who is going to be ultimately voted out in that episode?
I would say who done it is who won it, right?
Who won it?
That's my assumption.
Damn.
If only Jeff announced winners like that, as excitable. I do feel like he's rather surprisingly stone-faced through 20 plus years of doing this, right? He's like the winner of Survivor the Australian Outback. You'd expect a bit more of just like raucous energy. Say what you want to about the Chen bot, but she is rather celebratory when the votes.
Well, maybe he lost his voice so much in Survivor 41 and 42 that he's not going to go there.
Exactly. Like, it's live on the island. It's not months afterwards for me to rest my voice. You got me where you want me, including my vocal quality.
Yeah. Okay. So Jeff says they edit this to be a who won it.
Yes, where it's essentially like they're not going to outright say, okay, this is the
we got to stop freezing like this.
Person who's following me. Let me different. Hold on.
Yeah. All right. We need to have Mike Bloom at 100% capacity, or otherwise this isn't going to work. Okay? All right. Let's give this a second. Oh, boy. All right. Here we go. Oh, my God. Now there are two of them. Yeah.
Everyone's worst nightmare has come true.
Okay. All right. Let me get. Well, hold on. Which Mike Bloom do I get rid of? You or the other one?
One of us tells the lie, and one of us tells the truth all the time. I don't know which one you take out.
The other one is sending me a message in the chat that you're the imposter.
Exactly.
Okay,
who's sus? Who's the most? Who among us? Apologies. It seems like this week, whenever I talk about CBS behind the scenes stuff, I get frozen out. Not coincidental whatsoever. Yes. So when it comes to the who won it of it all, it seems like Jeff is really saying this idea of like, we don't do a winner's edit. We're just trying to tell the story as it goes, and we're not trying to be as blatantly out front as it's this person's story. Everyone else is just a side character. And so I do think that also comes into play with like certain moves as well, that like if the editors know there's this big, perhaps one of the biggest betrayals in Survivor history happening, let's try to put drips and drabs throughout. I do not think it is a coincidence that we have had several pairs broken up over the course of this season, but the one by far that has produced the most emotional reaction is Jesse and Cody, considering that is the pair this season that has had by far the most emotional investment.
Yeah, for sure. And what a emotional reaction it was for us watching, and then for Cody to experience it. Mike, this maybe could be the subject of an off-season podcast, but is this perhaps the biggest betrayal of an ally in the history of the show?
I mean, I really have to think so. I mean, Tony and Trish is the first one that came to mind for me. Like that was pretty brutal as well. And I wonder, well, it's tough because like the reaction helps with that or hurts that, because with Tony and Trish, you then have the follow-up of Trish teary-eyed, just blistered at that final tribal council talking to Tony about how much he betrayed her. And we're not necessarily
the internet is a fickle mistress some of these times.
We'll talk about whether Cody will be in that mood. Am I back?
Yeah. Yeah. Tony and Trish and the teary eyes.
So Trish was blistered at Tribal Council, right? Like teary-eyed, talking to Tony, saying like, I was your number one. I was going to go to the end with you. That was so rough to watch. I don't know if we'll get that from Cody and Jesse. I think we can certainly talk about that based on the way that we saw Cody talk to us about it months after the fact, right? There's a lot that we can infer from like his very jovial final words to the pause that took a million years into the handshake that he had with Jesse to the way he feels now kind of watching it all back. I think a lot is still up in the air as to how Cody is going to act in this final tribal council, especially if Jesse's sitting there.
Yeah, what's interesting about this blindside where, we've talked about the Shannon Ricard thing, but the Shannon Ricard was like a fractured thing. Like Shannon Ricard had been on the rocks for a little while throughout the game, even though they were allies together. It's very rare that you have this type of maybe like a Malcolm and Denise, and Malcolm and Denise is I feel like not quite this, because that was right up against the end of the game.
And they also had the element, right, where they were like, okay, we have to take each other out, or else like this is not going to, this is not going to play out well for either one of us. So there was still an element where like they both had a mutual understanding. That's what makes this so tough, right? Is that Cody was going to go to the ends of the earth and beyond. He was going to go to freaking Mars for Jesse. And Jesse cuts NASA's budget, stops that flight, and says,
wow,
no, space cowboy, you ain't going.
Is this the next season of For All Mankind?
Exactly. Who knew it was a backdoor Survivor plot the entire time in this alternate universe? Okay,
Mike, you have been paying very close attention to the final words of all the survivors. That it is my understanding that's one of your favorite things about the show. What the people say after they get voted out of the game. I feel like you pay very close attention to this.
I mean, I guess I played close attention to it. I didn't realize I was such a devotee of the final words. I mean, you and I did do a final words podcast in the pre-Triple O days. I mean, I will admit it is not something that carried over incredibly well to the new era. For whatever reason, maybe it's because you cast all these super fans, right? That it's like, oh, had a good time, no matter what, no regrets, don't feel too bad about it. And that has kind of been the timbre of this season. Even the people that have been blindsided the most are like, yeah, that sucks, but hell, adventure of a lifetime, still had a great experience. Thanks for having me out here. You feel the love of the game. It comes at the cost of producing, I think, some really funny sound bites. But I think perhaps that ichor has been brought back with the 1-2 punch, or the 1-2 middle fingers, perhaps, of Sammy and Cody.
Yeah. Okay, so let's listen to Cody's final words from this week. Here we go.
Heart is crushed. It is freaking crushed. I can't believe this just happened. My main man, Jesse, completely backstabbed me, and it's a damn good play. I can't fault him on that. I should have known better. I'm going to continue to have the time of my life. I'll keep trucking. I'm going to keep smiling, but you, Jesse, you.
Yeah, little lion. Okay. So, yeah, he ends it with the F you, Jesse.
Yeah, but, like, then he laughs it off, right?
Yeah.
So like, yeah. So you could tell that there's like, I don't know. It's tough though. Like, yeah, it's a joking aspect, right? It's very much the like, but screw you. I was just kidding. Don't worry about it. It's that GIF, right, of the girl being like, oh, yeah, I don't care. But then he tells this story, right? Like he told to Dalton Ross, he told to me, he told to you of like, oh, but then once I actually got into the medical tent, I was, what did he say? Like flapping around like I was in a gang fight.
I did not get that. That might have been a response to a question from either you or Dalton.
Yeah, he said, to quote a Miss McGowan Will Ferrell movie, he was kicking and screaming when he got into the
Wait for it.
tent, and he realized that his game was over. So, my goodness.
Yeah.
Am I here?
You're here.
Oh,
yeah. Cody was kicking and screaming in the tent. Something I might start doing soon. If it's gonna, I don't know if it's gonna do anything. I'm just gonna keep on trucking and living. Okay.
My goodness. I think my internet connection is my Jesse today, just absolutely severing me at the knees here. I feel like Carl hobbling along right now.
Yeah. We'll clean this all up when we get to the audio podcast. Mike, do you want to just tell that story again?
Yeah, so Cody, after he does this, after he's flipping the birds, he's having a good time, walks to the tent where, you get your vitals checked out and everything by Dr. Joe. And from what he told Dalton Ross and myself, he was like a misbegotten Will Ferrell movie, kicking and screaming. Like he said, like he was in a gang fight, which, given Jesse's background, I don't know, feels either appropriate or inappropriate.
Jesse's
but
like, you don't know a gang fight.
it's like, I don't think you kick and scream in a gang fight. I don't think. Listen, my experience starts and stops at West Side Story, but there was certainly a lot of kicking, not a lot of screaming happening. But he absolutely seemed to be of more mixed emotions when he actually like checked out of the game. Perhaps the adrenaline was flowing at the time of just like, I cannot believe this is happening. Sure, yeah, dude, whatever. You don't have to explain anything. I mean, he told me in my interview that like he, in that lengthy pause, about 4 to 5 decisions went through his head of like, do I choke slam this guy into the fire? Do I throw him over the stumps and spank him like, he's a naughty boy? Do I deck him in the face?
Please don't do that.
I mean, these are many don'ts that you shouldn't do in Survivor. So this really was the lengthy pause of just Cody trying to think through the decision matrix of what to do to this man. And while all was hunky-dory on the way out, once he passed through and officially became an eliminated contestant, there's a hunch that that may not be the case.
Yeah. I think that when the lights are on, the cameras are there, you're very sort of like, okay, this is what I do, and then like that all stops. Like you are no longer, and there's no cameras on you, and like, hold on, like what just happened? Like I'm out. It's over. That's it. And it can be, I think, like, and especially now, there's not even like a Ponderosa camera now, you know?
No, you go from all the attention to no attention right now. And I think it's a little bit going cold turkey, much like Cody did a couple months beforehand with caffeine. Once you get that fix, it's tough to come down from. And it seemed like from what he talked about with us, he felt very good about his chances in the game, right? He said, if I made it to the final 3, I was going to win. I would not be surprised if we have a bit of what Ricard had in the 41 reunion, where like he felt very clearly out of it, right? He's like, I'm still imagining myself winning. I can't imagine myself being voted out. I could see Cody still. I mean, Cody kind of lives his life, it seems like, in a bit of a different universe than a lot of people usually. But I could see that as well, where I think he might still be reeling from everything that's happening, considering how truncated this endgame is with only 3 days left.
Mike, we haven't really gotten your take yet on the actual move itself. We've talked about sort of just like the scope and its place in Survivor history. But what about the actual move in terms of helping Jesse win the game? Let me bring in a voicemail to set that up, okay? This is the other voicemail we have from Ben.
Ooh.
So hear me out, but I actually think Jesse made the wrong move. And I think he could have done something even more complicated, but more effective, potentially, which is to disarm Cody by using Cody's idol, but keeping Cody in the game. And that way you keep Cody in as a meat shield and as a potential threat to be taken out final 5 or final 4 that everyone else is going to be targeting. And you still get to show that you're the boss by playing Cody's idol. And what I think potentially Jesse could have done here is played Cody's idol either on himself or on Gabler, and gotten Carla scared to have Carla play her idol and waste her idol as well. And then I think the best move for Jesse would have been to actually vote out Owen, because Owen is a big challenge threat, we know, and has that underdog story, and I think is potentially threatening to Jesse when it comes to final 3.
Okay. All right. So let's just talk this through. Was there another way for this to Mike, let me first just give you, what if Jesse takes Cody's idol and plays it on Cody?
As in, like, you don't know how much trouble you were in, my dude. Now,
like,
in this,
there's one guy in this game that has my undying loyalty, and it's this guy right here. Jeff, I'm playing this idol for Cody.
Now, in this circumstance, did he also vote for Cody?
Well, but maybe at the last second he votes for Owen.
That's
maybe
the
the last
thing.
second he votes for Owen.
You don't know how much danger, and I am one of the 4 knives going into your back right now.
And then they get back to camp, and he's like, "You all thought that I was gonna vote out this guy. I love this man. Like Cody, we're going to the end, baby."
I mean, talk about the ultimate declaration of love, right? Like, Ron Mariano, screw off. That, to me, beats out, like, Cody'd have to wear an I Heart Jesse shirt at the reunion.
It would be that's so interesting, though, right? Because then it's like the jury's like, oh, my God, Jesse saved Cody. He saved him. Like, Cody had no idea he was about to be blindsided. Jesse just saved him.
I guess the question is...
Jesse did that-ish.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be more ish than what you're indicating with ish, because I think there's also this idea that of like using advantages, using idols is great, but it all depends on who you take out. And we'll talk about, I think, the, Owen's perhaps chances of winning. It's not to say that it's zero, but I think if you go through all that to take out Owen, I think people would be like, all that to take out Owen? Owen of all people. I think, they're looking at people like Carla, Cody as the bigger people. That's who you make the big moves against. It's almost like Matt Hoffman using the diamond power of veto to take out Sheriff Kathy.
I don't know, but this is so interesting though. That this idea, because I think that Carla comes back from the tribal council. She's also, I think she's happy. I think she has a totally different reaction of that. She was the only person who, she voted with Jesse for Owen. That Carla's mad at Cody. Cody is the one that wrote her name down. So Jesse all of a sudden has like two viable people that are probably like wanting to take him to the end versus the remaining stragglers of Cassidy and Gabler.
So here's the thing though, and I understand, I know Jamal expressed this of like, Jesse thinks that Cody can't beat him in the final three, which is wrong. This entire move is predicated by the perception Jesse has that Cody can beat him in the final three. And who am I to say that he's wrong? A, first of all, because he's out there. And B, this is something we see in Survivor all the time. And this is something that was expressed in this most recent episode. This idea of like, here is a pair of people that work closely together. If they get to the end, we can't separate. We don't know which one's Mary Kate. We don't know which one's Ashley. We both know that they're both
Which
Olsen.
One's the real Mike Bloom?
Exactly. Which one's just the smiling person that doesn't actually talk, which might be the more desirable Mike Bloom at the end of the day.
But in this scenario, Jesse has just saved Cody in front of the entire jury. That Cody does not count. Cody does not count. Cody does not count.
Right. But I think like the whole impetus of this move is to get Cody out. And I think Jesse looks back at some of the biggest pairs in Survivor history, right? Your Steven and JT's, your Wendell and Dom's. What was the issue? Dom couldn't take out Wendell. Steven couldn't take out JT, and they regretted it. They end up going to the game, and in Dom's case, they don't get completely shellacked, but like they end up losing because they can't make that move. With Cody possibly having an idol of 5, though this Ben, idea gets rid of that element, and probably being a shoo-in to either win the challenge of Final 4 or at least do well at Fire, he might feel this is the only opportunity he has to take his biggest endgame threat right now off the board.
Maybe, but I do think that, like, in that scenario, I do think that, well, like, especially once Jesse starts talking about his family, and I guess it's not a lot of other family people on that jury, so maybe there's not as many, like, sympathetic ears towards Jesse. But when Cody's talking about, like, live-in jet skis, motorboats, like all sorts of, like, crazy partying that's going to go on with the $1 million, and Jesse's talking about how he's there to like get that money baby for his family. Like, I do think that especially now after in this universe where he has saved Cody with an idol on a night when Cody was going to go home, and he could talk about his resume. Like, Cody's resume is very checkered at that point.
It's like Johnny Fairplay versus Lil in the Pearl Islands Final Tribal Council, right? Of like, who do you want to give money to? In a manner of speaking. I could see that. And I think you and Jamal had a really interesting conversation about the meta aspect about how...
and that wasn't quite Jamal's idea. Jamal actually, his idea was to... he wanted to keep Cody in the game, vote out Carla, and then not give Cody his idol back at the final 5 and blindside Cody at the final 5.
Yeah, which would be like an extended epilogue of the Tai Trang Scott Pollard thing, right? Of like, you're not going to give me back my idol? Really? Next morning. You're really not going to do it? Into the afternoon. Can you give it back to me now, please?
Yeah.
It'd be tough to have like that amount of staving off temptation, perhaps for too big to blindside.
Ricard and Shan kind of had that going for at least a couple hours.
Yeah, I mean, they might have the record for, biggest endurance when it came to that type of thing. I just feel like, yes, there are outside situations that might impact things. And I actually want to talk about that in a brief second. I just think, to me, what I was taking away, and actually, doing exit press, one of the things that I took away this past couple of weeks is I knew Cody wasn't going to win, no matter where he placed, because there were all these relationships that we kept hearing about that we didn't see on screen, right? James was really tight with Cody. Ryan was tight. Sammy was really tight with Cody. And I think had Cody been a winner, we would have seen those relationships. I know this season has not done a great job showing long-term relationships, but at least we'd see those seeds germinate at least a smidge before the flowers end up, giving out $1 million petals. The fact that we didn't see those, to me, meant like, okay, we're not seeing shades of Wendell giving Seabass back a shell that he left behind at the Navidi camp. We're not going to see these pay off in a jury vote situation down the line. But I think that Cody seemed to be more of that alpha presence among camp, and perhaps perceived as the one that is the more vocal, the bigger personality. And that happens. It's really tough to edit. I feel like nearly every time that we have seen this happen, it's always been the quote unquote beta personality that has been the one that has popped more. The one that comes to mind for me, Survivor Vanuatu, when this new coalition is made of Eliza and Scout and Twyla and Chris Doherty, they get rid of Leanne first. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, wait, Leanne? Why are they getting rid of Leanne? Why isn't Amy? Amy's the head of the snake, et cetera, et cetera. But if you talk to the people on Survivor Vanuatu, Leanne was actually the person that was leading the whole thing. Amy, I think, was able to provide the better sound bites, maybe have the bigger on-camera personality, and so was personified a bit more as like the mouthpiece of it. And I wonder if that, Heather and Erica was another situation here, right, where we're like, why are they saying their games are indistinguishable? They're very, very different.
Who was the mouthpiece there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a little bit of like a game of inches with that one, right? Low bar to clear. I suppose it was Erica from that perspective. But I think the show is still having a tough time doing that. Maybe it's because the show has now focused so much on like showcasing individual personalities outside of the show that it's sort of straying away from like how people are fitting into each other on the island, that it's tougher to personify that. But I'm going to buy at this moment, and maybe we'll get clarification after the season as to like, if Cody was in the final three, would you have voted for him? I'm going to go with the logic right now that I think Jesse rightfully believes that if he went to the final three with Cody, Cody would beat him. And
it's a great question for Jesse.
Yeah, and therefore, he feels like it's a now or never shot to take.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. Like, I feel like that and maybe it's Jesse having like a little bit of like imposter syndrome of feeling like, oh man, everybody loves Cody. He's got these great stories, such a big personality. People are going to vote for him instead of me. And maybe they wouldn't have. That I just think that the out of the box idea that I am proposing really weakens Cody and helps Jesse to the point where maybe he doesn't feel that way. And also Cody is around to get him over this hump, which is going to be the final four, which is going to be, Jamal did a great job yesterday of talking about, the three different ways to get to the final three and how Jesse has a real uphill climb in any of those three directions to win the challenge, make the fire, or potentially get dragged by somebody to the final three. Sarah has a question about the final four immunity challenge as it pertains to Jesse.
Hey, yo, Robbie-O, sending this before even listening to any podcast tonight.
Okay.
But
Nice.
what do we think about the fact that tonight's episode included the line, Jesse has yet to win an immunity challenge? Do we think that he is going to be able to pull out that final four immunity challenge and just smoke the entire game? Or is that kind of like he has yet to win an immunity challenge and he will not win an immunity challenge? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Okay, so really two schools of thought here, Mike. So that it could be when we, sort of like write the Survivor eulogy for Jesse,
Now is that a YOU or a U? Are you a millennial or a Gen Xer?
That definitely not a millennial. But could that Survivor recap of Jesse's game really come down to ultimately he had to win a challenge and he was the only player in the post-merge to get to this point that had not gotten a challenge victory?
It's a really fun point that I'm glad that Sarah ended up pointing out, because again, as I've been mentioning, this season in particular, they have sprinkled all these little things in that I think we just thought were innocuous at the time, but ended up playing much bigger. Another example, there are so many Owen and Gabler things in the pre-merge that I didn't even think about, right? It's namely Owen complaining about Gabler, but it's things like in that challenge with the square triangle puzzle, right? Where Gabler's like, how about you do this? And Owen's like, thanks, Professor. Do you have any other suggestions? It's, Owen consistently complaining about Gabler giving pep talks to them after challenges. Lo and behold, who are the last two Baka members? Owen and Gabler. I think the fact that they sort of become this odd couple is a really fun running through line of the season that we don't necessarily point out. So I would say there's a non-zero chance that it means something. It could just be like a David versus Goliath thing, right? Where like so many people
season or the story?
I would say the season more so, right? Where so many people won so many individual challenges, except for Nick. And then, like, yes, Nick does end up winning the final three, but it was maybe just more so a factoid for Jeff to point out to kind of just pass the time, like the Uncle John's bathroom reader of Survivor commentary. Did you know Jesse has not won an immunity challenge yet?
Okay, Mike, we've spent so much time talking about Jesse and Cody. We really haven't talked about the other four players who are left in the game in Carla, Cassidy, Owen, and Gabler. Do you think that any of those four are in a particularly interesting place in your perspective?
I mean, listen, count me as part of the community that's putting her up as their photo on Twitter. But like, let's talk Cassidy here, because I think there has been a lot of chatter about the fact that should Jesse go out, probably at Fire, if he does end up going out, that Cassidy would be the second most likely to win the season. And I think that would surprise people.
It would surprise people. Can you talk that through for me? Because is that how you feel?
I mean, I definitely think there is something there. Again, going back to the premiere in particular, Cassidy had some confessionals where she's had a lot of interesting things to say. Firstly, the first thing we see her do is she immediately starts strategizing. She hits the beach. She goes right to Carla. Again, irony of all ironies of all people, and says, how are you feeling? I really like you. And this is where Cassidy makes the animal comparison. She says she wants to play like a fox. What does the fox play, if you will? She wants to be clever, cunning, maneuvering, sneaky. She says, I don't want to play loud or in your face because a woman can't get away with that like a man can. Even later on, I think this is at like the Noel Tribal Council. She talks about how my gameplay may be more subtle, and that doesn't mean I'm not making big moves. It's just about keeping trust with the people that I want to work with. Again, it is not nearly as in your face as Jesse's strategy in terms of prominence or Carla's, nor has it been as big of a character presence as Owen or Gabler. But I think if you look at the narrative that she has been essentially presenting things that she has been able to accomplish. And I think if she gets to the end, I'd love to do some jury Jeopardy later to figure out like who versus who, what do the matchups look like. I think she has a sizable chunk of people in her corner should she make it to the end alongside people that are not bigger threats than her.
Can we do it now? Because I do feel like that the just completely like I don't want to say like worst case scenario because I think it would be fun, but I've called it like the all hell breaks loose scenario.
Yeah, the weird case scenario.
Gabler, Owen, Cassidy, final three. I think that's sort of like okay, the two biggest players in terms of like their presence on the season are gone at that point. And then it's really like a crapshoot final three in Cassidy, Owen, and Gabler. And I was talking about this scenario last night where, especially like if Cassidy rattles off a couple of other immunity challenges, potentially like final five, I lost a Survivor season to a woman who, somehow that despite like not being thought of as like a big challenge threat, won 4 immunity challenges. So like it definitely like is an impressive thing when somebody stands there and is like, hey, I won 3 immunity challenges, I won 4 immunity challenges. Okay. That's a big resume point for someone that's sitting there at the final 3. So all right, let's just hypothetically go.
Yeah.
Let's go through it. The all hell breaks loose scenario.
The DEFCON 1 scenario.
DEFCON 1. Okay. And let me see. Could we do this potentially here? Mike, you start talking. I'm going to see if I could potentially bring up a visual aid for us.
Okay, perfect. Because, yeah, I have some ideas here. So let's go in chronological order based on jurors. I want to start with Janine. Because Janine, people might just say, oh, Owen. They were tight. Owen voted alongside her with the Ellie stuff. He feigned not voting for her, even though maybe Cassidy, that could be something that she speaks to. I think Janine would be a vote for Cassidy, personally. Now, again, this is something we didn't really see, but Janine told me in her exit interview that she was actually really close with Cassidy. We saw this actually in her boot episode where, like, we see her go to Cassidy to, like, not only go there for comfort in, the wake of Dwight's blindside, but also to, like, perhaps pitch some stuff as well. I think there's a relationship there. And I think wanting to, like, support another woman winning as well. I think Janine would be a vote for Cassidy here.
Okay. I could see it. We saw that Cassidy was very upset about Janine potentially being voted out of the game. Cassidy cast that vote, that rogue vote against Ryan at that tribal council. So, okay, I will give that to you. Although I think it would be unlikely that Janine would not vote for Owen. I feel like that they were pretty close throughout the game. No?
I mean, I think that's definitely a qualifier too. But also remember, like, she is, a little detached from the game at this point. It's quite the opposite of what I was talking about with Cody. She's been sitting there for a good little while at this point, and she's watched a lot of tribal councils. It could depend also on, like, the way that they pitch themselves. There's something I want to talk about with that later on as well. I think we got some possible intel, actually, that I think will play very well into this. I don't know if you saw this, Rob, but Dalton Ross, much like we, were able to ask questions of the Survivor contestants pre-season, and he has sort of been sprinkling them throughout, whereas we sort of like front-loaded them. And he released an article today, on the day we're recording this, that had the Survivor players talking about if they were to make the final 3, like, what's one thing you would or wouldn't do in the final tribal council? And I think actually that's a fantastic litmus test, perhaps, into not only what a possible final 3 would do in front of the jury, but what jurors would and would not want to see finalists do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And any interesting takeaways?
So nothing from Janine. I think as we go further down the line, we can probably talk about that as well. But yeah, I think Janine, I'm still going to say Cassie, but I could see an argument for Owen as well.
Okay. All right. With the help of my Steve Kornacki-esque big board, okay?
I've seen enough.
Yes. Okay. All right. So, Mike, here is the projected final tribal council in this scenario, which we will call the all hell breaks loose scenario. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Jesse and Carla are out of the game. Okay. We have awarded a jury vote for Cassidy to Janine. Okay. All right. Mike, the next member of the jury was going to be James, correct?
Yeah, and of course we know James, a shoo-in vote for Owen. Just 100%, all water under the bridge.
Yes, but James, that he was tight with Cassidy. He could be Coco strong.
Oh, he's definitely Coco strong. Cassidy did, unlike Carla, did not vote him out. And he actually has said that, like, Cassidy was like one of his day ones. So yeah, I think it's safe to say James would be a big vote for Cassidy.
Okay. All right. There you go. All right. That's 2 potentially. Okay. We know Ryan, he is not going to be a vote for Cassidy, right?
Ryan's the G-man. He's voting for Gabler.
Gabler more than Owen?
Definitely. They had a lot of bonding out there. We saw scenes, right, where Gabler was out there on the
Right.
raft with Ryan. It's clear that Gabler really valued Ryan. He was one of the people that was saying we can't get rid of him at the Janine vote. They had a lot of like similar outdoorsiness that I think they valued.
The thing is here with this scenario, this all hell breaks loose scenario, is that, you know, the people that could go for Gabler or for Owen, like those two guys both coming from Baca, both kind of being at the bottom, like they could split their votes. Like this could be potentially like you know, a 4-2-2 final tribal council.
That's interesting. Yeah, that it's like you know, Gabler says, I have a plan to get us to the final 3, and it's gonna screw us both.
Okay. All right. So after Ryan goes out, it's Noelle. I would think, while Noelle, I think, is probably does want a strong woman to win. She had been so tight with Owen, who was her closest person. Where do you think Noelle would go?
See, it's a good question because, like you said, from an interpersonal perspective, Owen, I think, would make the most sense. He was in lockstep with her.
By the way, we are officially in a Brant Steele in this scenario.
Exactly. Who's bonding with who? Who's ready to flip someone's bed right now? I guess Gabler did in the form of putting palm tree blankets on top of people.
Okay.
So Owen, I think, is definitely up there. But could this be something where if your scenario of like Cassidy beasting out on challenges ends up happening, could this be like a competitor respects competitor thing of like, here is, I'm someone who is ultra competitive, ultra athletic. You were able to prove that athleticism as well.
For the sake of making this more fun and not a total Cassidy runaway, let's give Noelle to Owen.
Yeah, I think so. Owen deserves something at the end of the day. Let's give him something. Let's give Charlie Brown a kiss with the redheaded girl, even though Noelle's a brunette.
Yeah. Okay. So then, hypothetically, Sammy. Okay. Where's Sammy's vote going to go? He was tight. Again, this is one of those ones where it's like Owen and Gabler, I think, are splitting some of these votes. Do you think that this is Owen or this is going to be Gabler? I guess I would think that Owen will be a better final tribal council performer.
See, that's the thing. All I need right now in this finale, I'd be satisfied with anything that has Mike Gabler sitting at the end, because we've been talking about this all season long. I've called him Gay Eibler because like this man just talks so oddly, like he's some sort of machine learning algorithm brought to life.
Yeah.
Like he's a chat API.
Yeah.
But so I think that like he just has such weird things, considering one of the first things we heard him say is, when my children, before they were hatched, we were watching Survivor. This man he said I caramba this episode for whatever reason. Like he just got unfrozen.
He definitely did. Yeah.
Ay caramba.
Yeah.
Gabler perhaps thinks he's playing one of the
AI
first
caramba, maybe, Mike.
Exactly.
Caramba.
He just misread it. Maybe Gabler thinks this is the first season of Survivor, right? He's playing super old school. He's quoting things that were popular most in the 90s. Maybe that's what the era that Gabler finds himself in, despite the fact that he's dressing like he's from the 1890s with that prospector hat. So I think Sammy has respect for Gabler. At least from like my sense of talking with him, it seemed like while he obviously he had a hot and cold relationship with him, he does admit like my game went south when I let Gabler go. And I think were Gabler to come forward with this game that he has promised to us of I am the assassin, I am the crocodile, I'm the assassinating crocodile, I'm the assassinator, if you will. I think that Sammy would be the one that'd be most likely to swallow that tripe.
Okay. Let's talk about Cody. Okay. I asked Cody specifically, like I've definitely, been very curious about where does Cassidy stand in all this. I asked Cody, like, can you give me a sense of where you felt like in the game Cassidy was strategically? He said he felt like that she was Carla's person. He didn't see really much of anything that she was doing strategically. Now, she maybe is not working with him. He did say he had some really great spiritual connections with Cassidy, but from a game perspective, he was not clicking with Cassidy. Based off of that answer, that did not sound like a person that would have voted for Cassidy at the final tribal council.
This guy's another Gabler guy. He's one of the G-men. Slam dunk.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I think, when I asked Cody about what his final 3 plan was. It was going to be that brothers in arms odd arm handshake that they did in the split tribal council, right? He wanted to go to the end with Gabler and with Jesse, A, because he thought he could beat them, but B, he's like, Gabler's a loyal guy. He's a man of his word. Owen, as an example, is somebody who I think would have a better underdog story. So I take him out at 4 and I go to the end with Gabler. I think Cody would still honor that in a manner of speaking, as well as I think have some respect of like, I was the big threat that you had to take out. And so I wouldn't see many reasons in this scenario for Cody not to vote for Gabler here.
Yeah. And then with Jesse and Carla, I don't know how the two of them go out. Carla, I don't know, unless she goes out in some way where she's really burned by Cassidy. I feel like that Carla would be a Cassidy vote.
I think so. Yeah. I think it's very much a like, yeah, we went on acrimonious terms, but look how far we've come. And I'm so proud of what you were able to do. Like there's sometimes that vote that happens, right? Of like, thank you for continuing my journey for me in a manner of speaking. And I could see Carla paying that respect vote to Cassidy.
And I wonder if Jesse, does he want to lose to Gabler?
At the end of the day, when you sit up and think about what took food out of your children's mouths, do you really want to say I lost to Mike at Gabler?
Well, I said in the Jamal podcast that I'm wondering if like the exhaust port on the Jess Star could be Gabler.
What a one in a million shot,
is
kid.
That the 1 in a million thing that he is just not thinking of, that the betrayal is coming from the assassin who's going to put the poison in the bowl of the king and take out Jesse? Could Jesse say, you know what? I'm throwing my lot in. Carla and we are both voting for Cassidy.
Yeah. So when you're talking about the assassin situation, are you predicting like Gabler wins immunity and throws Jesse in? Are you predicting Gabler beats Jesse in the final fire making?
Either of those scenarios, I think are potentially possible.
Yeah, because it's interesting. We obviously have to look back on like, can so-and-so make fire? Can this person make fire? They've been very hidden with the fire making scenes. There was a scene in the premiere where Gabler couldn't start the fire on day 2, and so Sammy stepped in to do it. I think that more so played to Sammy's arc than it did to Gabler, considering Sammy gets taken out partially because he's such a fire making threat. But that's the only evidence I've seen out of these 5 as to who can make fire and who can't.
Yeah, maybe Jesse feels like, okay, I can count on Gabler going to the final 3. Maybe Gabler wins a final 4 immunity and then throws Jesse into the fire after promising him he was going to take him to the end.
That's what Cody wanted to do, throw Jesse into the fire.
Yeah. And honestly, at this point where we're talking about this, where if Cassidy has this 4, is there anything that's more Charlie Brown than being a 0 vote finalist? Is Noel also jump on? Is this maybe 5-3-0 for Cassidy?
Owen throws out a pitch at Final Tribal Council. A la Charlie Brown. He gets hit by the pitch, tossed up in the air, and all his clothes fall off.
Look, I could easily see this also as Owen gets these guys, Ryan and Sammy and Cody, and they go Owen instead of Gabler. But I kind of feel like that these Cassidy votes feel more solid in this scenario.
Yeah, and I mean, a Gabler second place would be stunning, considering, again, this is the guy who in the premiere said, I know I'm an idol, but I'm playing shot in the dark tonight. Screw it. I know I screwed things up. Like, this man was the ultimate wild card. I mean, what I appreciate the editors doing is building up the assassin metaphor that you mentioned of like Gabler explaining his game to us. Where that disconnect is for me, we have not heard anybody really talk about why they're working with Gabler. I feel like we've gotten that from so many. Exactly. Nobody wants to hang out with Bart Simpson. He's a truant. No one's going to be the Millhouse there. And so I think when it comes to
my shorts.
Exactly. I don't have a cow, man. That's what Gabler's going to say when he ends up beating Jesse in the final 4 fire making. When it comes to that, I feel like that's a part of the story that we're missing. And I wonder if it's because people are like, yeah, well, Gabler's kind of a goat. Sort of like the story we got but didn't get about Romeo, where they can't outright tell us who's a goat because they don't want to spoil that final outcome. They want to try to give everybody as fair of a shake as possible until the final tribal council happens and someone summarily gets shut down. But I just think it's so interesting that we have all these things about Gabler talking about himself, but we haven't heard, like, why does Owen want to work with Gabler? Why does Cody want to work with Gabler?
Yeah, Owen doesn't have any other options, I think, is a big part of it. Can we try one other thought experiment? Could we just sub out either Owen or Gabler for Carla and see what that looks like? Okay. Who do you think? Yeah, I've said that I feel like that Owen, in my mind, is the most likely person to go out at 5. I feel like that people are going to be worried about him, especially that if everybody comes for Jesse and Jesse can write down one name and Ben bomb somebody out of the game, I think that maybe that person will be Owen.
I could see that because I know that there was a lot of 4D chess happening, right? Of like, well, Carla is basically in an iron lung at this point. Like, she's no threat in the Final Four challenge, but I don't know. I think Carla just, to me, fits the bill too much of, like we saw with Ricard, like we see with Lindsay, the first phone in these 5-person finales always seems to be like, very open and shut. This person's a huge threat to win the final jury vote. Let's make sure they don't get that far, which, yeah, is a little more boring. But hey, it's surprising that despite there being a final 3 and a final 4 fire-making challenge, who would have guessed, Rob, that if you're a big threat, you're eventually going to get voted out as Survivor? It's almost like if you put in artificial constructs in the end to try to make big players get to the end, all players are going to do is eventually push against it and just get rid of the big players anyway, because that's the point of the freaking game.
Yeah.
But in this scenario, we'll put Carla here. We'll do the CKG.
Okay. All right. So let's run through it. We can do it a little bit quicker this time. Okay. This time around, Janine, no reason to think that she had a particularly strong bond with Carla, correct? So we'll keep her as a Cassidy vote.
Yeah, it seemed like at least we saw the Cassidy one. We didn't really see the Carla one. I'll have to look back at my interview to see if she talked about her. I would imagine Carla had a relationship with every grain of sand out there on the beach. I'd imagine she had a relationship with her, but for whatever reason, we'll throw it in Cassidy here.
You don't think that James is going to be salty with Carla, do you?
I don't. I think James might have some questions, at least, that would need to be answered at the final tribal council as to like, oh, you knew about this and you didn't tell me?
But for the sake of this conversation, let's say, Carla, I think she would be really tough at that final tribal council.
I definitely think so. I mean, so James, in this Dalton Ross interview that I talked about before, he said at the final tribal council, he wants people to be humble, but own their moves. He doesn't want you to come forward and be like, I was so much better than you all. But he doesn't want you to completely supplicate yourself. Yeah. Don't get on your knees. Maybe get in a squat. Perhaps.
Carla does not supplicate, okay?
Absolutely not. So yeah, I would imagine that James, it's tough. Those are his 2 tightest allies that are up there. He did say Cassidy was his day one, but I think he might have been tighter with Carla near the end.
Okay. For the sake of this, let's say he votes for Carla. Let's put Ryan back with Gabler. So it's 1-1-1 at this point.
No, he hated Coco by the end of it. So yeah, ABC, anybody but Coco.
Anybody but Coco. Okay. All right. Then after that, let's go to Noelle. Okay. Noelle. Okay. This should be, we were sort of on the fence between Cassidy and Owen for Noelle, with Owen out of the picture. Let's make that a clean Cassidy vote for Noelle.
Yeah, though, again, like, if Carla was able to persevere, maybe somehow wins another immunity challenge, is that another thing for Noelle of like, damn, look what you were able to do?
Noelle did say about Carla at the last tribal council, like, hey, that looks like me out there. So and maybe she feels like that she's seeing somebody who's reminding her of herself.
Representation matters, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Now, in the chat, Dirty Dancer here very astutely says, Sammy loves Carla.
Yeah, Sammy called Carla an aunt, much to her chagrin. I got to imagine he votes for her.
Okay, so let's put a Sammy sweetheart on Carla over here.
You're going to write a note about what Carla might have done wrong to Sammy and leave it on the computer?
Yeah. Okay. So that takes us back to Cody. And Cody, he had a lot of respect for Carla. He did have like really great conversations with Gabler. I think that this Cody vote is between Gabler and Carla.
Yeah, I definitely think Cassidy is counted out here. I mean, it depends because, yeah, I mean, Carla technically didn't vote him out, right? Like, Carla was going along with the plan that he suggested. But is there also some bitterness of like, you shouldn't even be there? If my big master plan had happened, I just got big brained on top of the big brain. I got galaxy brained.
But it wasn't her fault. Like, she didn't do anything to him. Like, he was coming for her. She, unbeknownst, she trusted him and was going for Owen.
Yeah, so I think maybe make it a Carla vote then.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, so Cody goes for Carla. Especially, did she get Jesse out of the game? Like, I think that would definitely be like points in the Cody book, whoever was the person responsible for taking Jesse out. Then Owen, I guess he would go out at 5 in this scenario. Does Owen throw his vote in with Gabler?
I think
does he vote? He's been close with Cassidy. I think he votes for Cassidy.
I would actually say I think Owen and Jesse would both vote for Carla. I think these are two like devout fans of the game. I think they like look at the biggest, flashiest game of the 3 and be like, okay, no matter what our feelings might be on the person, let's throw our votes there.
I feel like that people vote for the person that they have the best connection with, more so than resume. I know Owen is a super fan and is probably looking to resume, and maybe there was something that was forged that day as they were both under the grates.
Don't say forged. That's a bad word for Cody.
for 2.5 hours, as they both won the immunity challenge that day. So maybe there's like a real mutual respect there. But just in terms of a working relationship in the game, they've never been on the same page, Owen and Carla.
Yeah, I mean, Owen was actively working against Carla this episode, right?
Yeah.
Like every single thing, he's like, this is great because it allows me to get out Carla, which is my goal for this episode.
And to me, Owen has a real relationship with Cassidy in the game. I feel like that Owen often is the only person you see like talking strategy with Cassidy and vice versa.
Yeah, that's true. Jay Pizza Rolls in the chat says, I think Cody votes for Tablet, which is the interface that they are using to produce Gabler. So I suppose Tablet is close enough to Gabler.
So how about this, Mike? Just for the sake of making this a fun conversation, let's make this a 3-3-1 vote at this point, with Jesse getting to cast the deciding vote.
I love this.
For Carla or Cassidy.
I love this because no matter this or the all hell breaks loose scenario, I think this has been a very underratedly messy season. I have been pumping this out this entire time. Maybe it's because one of the tribe names rhymes with messy, but I feel like this is a particular season where, like, at least on Island, these people are really not caring for each other. We had some of like the biggest on Island arguments that we have seen in a long time between Ellie and Gabler, between James and Owen. So I think it only makes sense that we end in the messiest way possible, either in that very unlikely final 3 scenario here or a 4-3-1 eventual vote.
4-3-1. And so I think that Jesse would vote for Carla.
I think Jesse would vote for Carla as well.
Unless, like, and again, I don't even know how she would betray him in a way that like makes him so upset. I think that it would be a vote for Carla. So look, Carla's guys ultimately would get her the win here. James, Sammy, Jesse, and Cody, and that would be very super interesting. Mike, another interesting scenario could be potentially if we take Cody's vote. If Cody goes for Gabler, okay. I talked about this with Jamal. How do you think Survivor would settle a 3-3-2?
You have to go Occam's razor here because chances are they have not prepared themselves for this situation whatsoever.
What is Occam's razor?
That Gabler just cast the vote.
Just one Gabler vote. So it wouldn't be these 3 players these 2 players revote plus Gabler votes.
No, I think for just a television sake, they want expediency, right? They just want, and I think there's also this idea of like the ultimate wild card in Gabler gets to write down
hiding in plain sight. Gabler casts his vote in the 3-3-2. And Gabler casts his vote for whom, Mike?
Gabler!
Ellie, that's what I'm trying to do. No, Gabler, she's gone. She's gone. No, you can't vote for her again.
Gabler would try to work the rule loophole to be like, I can vote for so whoever I write down wins the game, right? I vote for Mike Gabler to win. You can't break the rules, Jeff. You've been Rumpelstiltskin. I'm the winner now by a 1-0 vote. Give me the check. Bring in the pizza and champagne.
My vote is for Frank Dillsbury. He was a veteran of a Desert Storm. He served proudly for several months.
This vote goes out to my furry space friend.
Yeah. So, in all seriousness, Gabler would cast a tiebreak vote for Carla or Cassidy.
I gotta think Cassidy? This is a big unknown. From a big unknown that is Gabler. Because, like, we barely seen him interact with either one of these people.
Well, we have seen him, I think, more with Carla than with like he was the one. Remember when like Jesse and Cody made the plan to take out Noelle? Who did he go to with that plan? Who was the person he went to go talk to?
But remember this last episode when they come up with this plan to blindside Cody and keep Carla out of it. Who does he go to? Who does Cassidy tell has Carla's idol? I think
That's
it's
true.
a little bit of what have you done for me lately?
Yeah, flip a coin at that point. And we know that Gabler is so much about his daughters and the relationship he has with his daughter. And so that he might look at Cassidy like a daughter. So, yeah, I think flip a coin at that point. But I think that this thought exercise has been really illuminating on a number of levels. And so let's just for one last time. Let me just then put these players into the power rankings because I think that I have different takeaways in terms of who the most likely winners and least likely winners of the season are. Okay. I still say that number one, if he gets there, it's Jesse's game to lose.
I think
Fair to say?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's interesting if we're not going to go through yet another scenario. I don't know if it would be unanimous. I'd be intrigued because obviously we saw at the time the crowd was going wild for what Jesse did. But we have seen from earlier Survivor iterations this season of the international variety how sometimes these controversial moves, depending on who's sitting on the jury, can sometimes play really badly. You spoke about this with Jamal. Like, there could be a remote chance that the more people start talking about how cutthroat Jesse was, the more people would come into Final Tribal Council and be like, why did you do that to us? And Cody, in this Dalton Ross interview, said the one thing that he doesn't want to hear in Final Tribal Council is coulda, woulda, shoulda. Is like, oh, I regret doing this. I shouldn't have done this. You own it and you move on. And that's a tough thing because Jesse's like, oh yeah, I don't regret voting out my best friend with his own idol. That's going to be a really tough pill to swallow. So I think he still wins.
But I think Jesse knows the show well enough to say that I had to do it. You would have won. Like that's the reason why. That's the reason why I did it. Not that I wish I didn't do it. I had to do it.
Yeah. Can I talk about something actually tangential as well that makes this move even more impressive for me?
Sure.
It's a little meta, but I think something that gives me even more admiration for not only this move, but the moves Jesse has made. And forgive me, because I am talking 100% out of the location of Cody's tattoo, if you get my drift, when it comes to this analysis, emphasis on those first four letters. But for me, there's this idea of representation and Jesse's journey. In the very beginning of the season, he had spoken about how he wanted to, play a game that could play back to those kids sitting in juvenile hall, knowing that you may be at the bottom of the world right now, but there is a ladder that you can climb and you can find success and you can find happiness. And this is not a situation that, yes, you may be born into, but you don't have to live in it. And you especially do not have to die in it. And I have so much respect for Jesse making these moves, knowing the remote chance that people are watching this and making judgments then subsequently from it. It's a very different respect, but we look at like Shan's game, for instance, or when I saw Werner play Survivor South Africa, there was a lot of talk at the time about like, some pastor you are. Pastor shouldn't play like this. You're doing a disservice to your job. Again, it's not necessarily occupational.
Look at John Raymond.
Exactly. But Jesse has been through this experience, and I'm sure it was very much weighing on his mind of like, I do not want to show people that like, oh, once a bad seed, always a bad seed. Look at what he's doing. He's a bad person. Yeah, et cetera, et cetera. And so that is yet another thing he was weighing in his head. I'm assuming in that beautiful confessional he had where he talked about like, I'm not just out here for, the experience. I'm here for my family. That confessional actually reminded me a lot of Dreams from Survivor Fiji. And that's what I love about the show is that people are there for a bunch of different reasons. And Jesse had so much writing on this. And I think that's an unseen aspect that we're not necessarily talking about is this idea for him of like, I want to make these decisions and I feel like I have to make these moves to get that money, baby. But at the same time, I can already imagine the people that are going to be pointing fingers at me saying, well, if he's a representation for this type of people, then they must all be this way. And so like my heart does go out to Jesse for having the wherewithal to not only have that consideration, but then to still move forward and say, no, I have to do this.
Yeah.
Say what you want to about the move, but that takes an incredible amount of gumption. And I give him all the credit in the world for that.
Yeah, beautifully put, Mike. Really keen observation about what Jesse must have been going through out there and still made the move. It's you saw like how difficult it was for him to do it, but he knew that's what it might have taken for him to ultimately win this game.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that's what I love about Survivor. I mean, that was, again, such an awesome confessional because I don't want to be the guy that's like, yes, let me lick up your tears, Survivor contestants. We love to see you get emotional. We love to see you cry. We want to see you break. But like, this is a game that requires so much of your time, so much of your physical, mental, emotional investment. And there are so many different perspectives as to why people end up playing this game and what they take away from it. It's been a real like boon and bust, I would say, of modern day Survivor storytelling. Is I sort of had this realization when I was watching this past week's episode. To me, there are two different types of characterizations on Survivor. There is who through what and who through why. Who through what is we get to know people through what they're doing on the island, right? Like how they're reacting to challenges, who they're in an alliance with, how they're voting, et cetera, et cetera. The who through why is a lot more, why are they here? Why are they the way they are? And I think that's where we bring in a lot more personal backstories, the flashbacks, the quote unquote sob stories, et cetera. Survivor, I think, has skewed away from who through what and more towards who through why. A benefit is I think we are seeing them more and more as people than Survivor contestants, which I think is really amazing. I think in the day and age of social media, we've been seeing a bit more behind the scenes, and I think we've been doing a lot better as a community of like seeing through the edit a bit. I think, someone like Jerry Manthe was certainly not getting packages from home back in the days of Survivor the Australian Outback. She was really being judged at face value, and I think letting us get some more introspection into everyone's out there, everyone has a story to tell.
Right.
I think is really great. It comes at the downside of obscuring more the who through what.
Yeah.
What are they doing out there? Why are they doing these things?
This is a really great point, Mike. And I think it speaks a lot to maybe some of the issues here in the new era of Survivor. It's almost like, we're doing a really great job of coming up with these are the origin stories for all of these superheroes that are out there that we are watching. And it's like, okay, great. We've got this great origin story. We got this. Okay, we understand who this person is, but we have really been missing a lot of that who through what, as you say, and that is the story, the reason. What, like it would almost be like if like the Avengers came on and you didn't see all of the other movies like leading up to it. It was just you were watching Endgame and you didn't understand. You knew who these people were, but you didn't understand why they were in these disagreements and in this conflict, because you're only getting like 2 minutes of camp life and things are just happening and you wait, who is this? What is this happening? And also, I think that another reason, I've thought a lot about this week, about why was this so great when that there had been issues in watching the shows and talking about the shows and in talking with the fans. I think that people have had a hard time connecting with this season. And I think that one of those reasons why that especially here in the new era is that the show has focused more on giving the game character.
Ooh,
And not
as opposed
as much,
to giving characters to the game.
yes, giving characters to the game. These people that they find are great, but no viewer is invested in the game as a character. And I think that that's been a fundamental flaw in the new era of Survivor, that they have been editing the game. The game is a monster. The game, you never know what the game is going to do to you. And not one viewer is invested in the game. We're only invested in these people, and we want to see more of their interactions and like the natural tendencies of like the conflict that comes up between them, as opposed to them reacting to randomness.
I really love that Survivor in its modern day stage has essentially become the 19th player, right? To the point where we get to Tribal Council and Jeff's, if you did a word cloud of like tribal councils this season, Survivor would probably be the biggest one, because it consistently was
What
the
is
thing.
Survivor like? Give us an example instead of like so what is living with James like?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Survivor is Elijah the Prophet. You leave a stump out at Tribal Council for Survivor to come and sit down. And I think it's that meta aspect, right? That the game is now so entrenched in our brains, not only from a reality TV perspective, but from a cultural perspective. And by and large, the people that are playing have had it in their blood for so long that they're like, you have reverence for the game. You're almost deifying the game in a way, right? You're putting the game on a pedestal because this is something that you've been born to play, something that you wanted to play. And therefore, we're going to put discussion around that, as opposed to sort of letting the game be that invisible spirit, right? And allowing it to foster those bonds without necessarily needing to say, hey, isn't it cool that we're playing Survivor? Isn't Survivor an interesting game?
Yeah. Isn't it different than it used to be?
Yeah, exactly. Which I think, again, is interesting from our perspectives as a discussion point. Maybe not so much like taking up primetime television. I mean, you brought up a great point about how this tribal council was particularly pointed, and Jeff really got into like some good form here with asking a lot of loaded questions towards people. But I think it was him very much following the lead of Jesse saying, Cody and Carla are playing their idols tonight. I think there's been this idea, this entire tribal council of like, it's been a bit of TC4 play, has it not? Of like a little bit of nothing, a little bit of hot air being blown around the winds of Fiji, just because these are savvy enough players that they know the tribal council double talk at this point. They know how to give, not necessarily nothing, go ahead, girl, but to give like some sort of answer that doesn't necessarily give anything away. And so I think they become sort of masters of that. And I think the one time that Jesse like throws out a piece of meat, Jeff's gobbling it up like, oh my God, yes.
Right.
Okay, let's talk about this.
Mike, and I really believe that the shot in the dark has played a big part in this, because I think the shot in the dark has been sort of like, and you've seen almost no live tribal councils in the new era, because I think players are so wary of like, oh, I don't want to say the wrong thing, and then give the hint to the person who's going home, because they could play their shot in the dark and then that could destabilize this whole thing. So everything is very kumbaya at these tribal councils.
Should shot in the dark have the timing changed? Should this be something you lock in before you go to tribal council?
Interesting. I thought you were going to say maybe just only in the pre-merge, where if you only want to do it...
Survivor doesn't like to do that for whatever reason. It used to be back in the day, right? They were like, okay, it says Edge of Extinction on the buffs. We have to do it through the finale. Now it's not called Survivor Shot in the Dark. That would be a very odd theming for a season. So that would be fine. But maybe it's this idea of, okay, if you want to make things a little more loosey-goosey, take some truth serum for tribal council.
Yeah.
Maybe taking off the pressure of Shot in the Dark would do that. Let's also mention another, perhaps, I wouldn't call it like a fail twist, but certainly something that has loomed a large presence. Can we talk knowledge is power for a second? Because
Sure.
Again, talk about the spirit here. I cannot believe I'm saying this, Rob. Is knowledge is power a good twist now?
It's interesting. I think it's given us good TV. I think fundamentally, I think it is bad for the game, because I think it's just so powerful that players are acting in, really odd ways where, the game is forcing players to share information about advantages and then you have a advantage also in the game that spells kind of certain doom for players who have these public advantages. So the players are like falling all over themselves to try to hide the advantages that they have. Like it's just so circular. And I think that ultimately it's unproductive for the game, even though that it has led to some, interesting TV because of it. I just think that it is fundamentally not something that's a good game mechanic.
See, I would agree and disagree. If this was last year, I would agree. I now think it is a good twist now that people know about it. I think it was an abhorrent twist in 41 and 42 because this was something that had never happened before. You can't plan for this. You can't plan for this random thing to come out of nowhere that had never existed before. Now that I think players know there's a possibility that it is out there, I think they have the way to plan for it, and it has produced some really fun TV. Again, between the Yankee swap of the advantages that allowed Jesse to steal an idol from Dwight, who stole it from Janine, and then vote out Dwight and Janine, to now Jesse throwing out the idea to spook Cody enough to give the idol back. I think the players in 41 and 42 did a sterling job of, despite being faced with this brand new twist, outsmarting it. Having Xander give up his idol before going to tribal council, having Mike give up his idol. It reminds me a lot of when the hidden immunity idol was first announced. We got so lucky that Cowboy came up with Plan Voodoo, right? That came up with this idea of the vote split that Stacy from Survivor Fiji was able to jump onto and really create this like really fun way to counteract this brand new twist. And I think since we already got to that point so early on, now we're producing all these really fun ways for people to kind of circumvent this thing. So I agree. I think initially it was a bogus thing, completely unfair because they had no idea it existed in the game. Maybe if it was public knowledge at the beginning, like Jeff announced, there's this new advantage called the knowledge is power, much like Shot in the Dark, that could have helped plan around things. I think now that it is more of a part of the bloodstream of the game, and especially because it is causing people to become even more increasingly paranoid around their advantages, not allow them to sit in their pocket, produce incredible maneuvers and TV moments like this, I gotta give it its flowers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's given us a lot more than we ever could have expected in all sorts of unpredictable ways. So look, I'll say that about it. Ultimately, I think it did its thing. I think it can go. I think it can go. It doesn't need to come back into a season 5 times. So I'm fine with it. Mike, I just want to circle back to just this close out this discussion of.
I realized we just took like a 20-minute intermission in the middle of our jury Jeopardy discussion.
Look, we got a nice sized, sturdy live audience here with us who have
sturdy audience.
Yeah, this is nice.
I'm comparing audiences to log cabins personally.
Yeah. Okay, so I think it still remains that Jesse is the most likely player to win the season. I think that last scenario that we did, I think that Carla would be the second most likely, but I think that where I kind of came into this week feeling like that Cassidy was the 5th most likely person to win the game. I think that it's safe to now say that Cassidy is the 3rd most likely player to win the game.
I think so. I really do. I know that, again, it's far from the ideal edit that she or any of us would want for a Survivor winner. But I think she's had a very solid path. She's had a strategy that she has vocalized to us and to other players, albeit in short fits and starts. And I think there's a really easy narrative that she can tell the jury. You come after me, you're gone.
Cassidy curse. Yeah.
The Cassidy curse. I slayed a goat on the way in, much like Sandra did, put a hit out there on anybody.
I heard that didn't happen, Mike. Okay.
You weren't talking to the right people then from Game Changers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that she does have, and plus the fact of the matter is, like, if people are looking for certain aspects of the game when it comes to voting, like fairly social, fairly physical, strategic. I think while she certainly may have been overshadowed by others, I think there's a narrative that she can spin for herself, and she has a story too. So I think, there's a reason why she might be able to kiss those ashes around her neck $1 million richer.
Yep. Okay. Gabler is the fourth most likely. And then we struggled to come up with a scenario where Owen is the winner of the season.
Which is odd, though, because, like, I would not say Owen is Cody here.
I mean,
like,
I think for Gabler and Owen, we did not come up with a scenario where they were the winners of the season.
Yeah, but I think Owen has a narrative that he himself can be, right? The Fabi Owen of like, I may have been on the outs, but like the fact of the matter is I was able to get by here. Yeah, I won immunity one time when I needed to, but the fact of the matter is I wasn't in trouble until James left for a reason.
Honestly, I think that if you were going to make a scenario for one of these guys, I think it might end up being where, okay, Jesse goes to the final three with Owen and Gabler, and the jury ends up being super bitter with Jesse after what he did. Noel and Cody kind of lead the charge. Jesse's a bad guy. Like, how could he do that? Oh, sorry. And then so they pile on either Owen or Gabler to sort of like force the win. But I can't imagine this sort of like Samoa-like scenario where one of these other two guys end up winning the game.
Yeah, who's the Eric Cardona in that situation? Sammy?
I don't know. Carla maybe is like, hey,
Eric
like,
Carla Cardona.
Yeah.
Eric Carladona. Maybe that's the.
So we'll see. It seems unlikely for the Baca guys, but look, Survivor's unpredictable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, listen, we saw it last season. They didn't, but we saw how much a final tribal council can still have an impact, how things can still be relatively live if you're not able to vocalize your game. And I think Owen would be able to vocalize his game well. It's just a matter of how much would he be able to make up for maybe the impression that people are walking in on, right? Of Owen was on the outs of all these votes. Like, what moves did he make? How much does that sort of even out, the pH scale in a manner of speaking?
Okay, Mike, we have not yet talked at all about the upcoming 3-hour finale. That's something we always do. This is, I don't even know how many years that we've done the last feedback show before the finale. Do you know what the first one you did?
The first one I did. So I started doing them back in Cagayan. So this is like my 15th feedback show appearance, which is wild. I know you've been talking records.
Congratulations.
With Hannah and with Bryce. I don't know if I'm a record setter in any way, but I believe I started doing them. I want to say Millennials versus Cambodia. Cambodia was the first one. That was the infamous Spencer's 5-piece puzzle loved one. Francesca season
draft, like word draft.
Word draft. No, I think that was the who will talk the most, and I drafted Sierra for some reason.
Yeah. Okay. We started a thing. All right. So many great memories, ultimately culminating in, it was 3 years ago, Mike, right around this time of year, that you and I went to the last ever live Survivor finale.
Who would have thought? It's like being in Vesuvius, right? Right before things erupt, right in Pompeii. Of like, look at this. Certainly nothing will change moving forward. And that in and of itself was a very different type of reunion, right? It was pre-taped for the first time due to the controversy around it. So it was still a normal one with an asterisk. But yeah, who would have thought we went to the last LA reunion where Jeff didn't come in with pizza and champagne that he tried to take from us in the middle of talking?
Yep. Remember he called me out in the pre-show warm-ups. He's like, I'm in my dressing room. I'm trying to get ready, and I keep seeing Cesternino zoomed in on the screen. I'm like, oh my god.
Well, that's because I think it was Chelsea Walker who showed us a photo afterwards from the green room of how you and I were like front and center, like positioned exactly in the middle from a geometric
like they were doing like focusing the camera, like zoomed in on us. So. Good thing I wasn't like picking my nose or something in the audience.
And who would have? I think actually that forecasted nicely, right? That was only a couple months later that he did the infamous "Do you like me?" at the red carpet. I think he was already building up a bit of that fervor.
I think so. He
was living rent free in his head for so many months.
Yeah, that one. I mean, that was like 6 weeks later. Okay, so. Let's take some questions here about the reunion show. Actually, let's just set this up. So, Mike, Are we under the impression that we will get a similar style, like not even reunion because they have not been ununioned? So it will be a continued
Yeah,
union of
what do
the
you call that?
Survivor cast members.
Like an epilogue almost, like an inside the actor studio of Survivor.
Yeah, just like we're here is like still talking.
Let me speak to Cowboy Cody right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you could go to Survivor Heaven and pick one word, what would you say?
Radical.
Living.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
Dying.
I would imagine that's the case. So there's a press release for the finale of officially advertising a 2-hour finale and a 1-hour quote unquote reunion show. Listen, I know people, including ourselves, have quibbles with the way they've done the reunion in the past. I'm going to assume they're going to say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and doing the similar live, unfiltered, raw with key lime pie type of reunion of bring everything in, bring in the giant logo. Let's talk to these people right after the win happens.
Yeah, boy, that would be something if they switched up the pizza to go to
Key lime pie.
Nothing
because you do have
sounds
dessert at the end of the meal.
nothing
Yeah.
sounds less appetizing to me than key lime pie in
Okay.
general. I would rather swallow a key stuck inside a lime than eat a slice of key lime pie.
Oh
It
my,
sounds-
Mike, I didn't know you're such an anti-key lime pier.
I am key lime pie sounds like a YouTuber name. I'm vehemently like anti-sour things, and so
Oh.
just the idea of like putting lime in anything sounds like a literal recipe for disaster.
Okay. Yeah. So this press release is saying that there will be the 2-hour finale followed by a reunion show hosted by Jeff Probst. I feel like this is just my gut feeling. Call me Kellen. Okay. Heyo, Robbio. I suspect that the reunion show that we get will be much shorter than what we got in 41 and 42. And I feel like it will be like a Winners at War-esque 2 hours and 45 minutes of show followed by a quick, like maybe like, or maybe like 20 minutes of like, hey, how was it? What do you think? Like, have some champagne. And then, hey, let's show you where we're going in 44 and get out.
I don't know. I think that
Let's make this our first over under.
wager it. Okay, so throw out a number.
All right. I will say, okay, from the time that the winner is announced, I will say that it is 10:32. Okay. I went a little high. 10 let's put it in the 10:30 hour. Will the winner of Survivor be announced before or after 10:30 p.m.?
I am 100% going 95% confident. I'm going with before. Personally.
Before. Okay, I feel good about this one.
I think this finale with commercials is going to be at least 30 minutes. They love to luxuriate in what happened this past season. I mean, look at the thing that we're just talking about happened. We're going to spend some time on that. We have to spend some time on that. And so I do not think we're going to go like heroes, healers, hustlers length of reunion. I still think they want to. I know that there's still going to be the first act advantage hunt, but I still feel like the past two finales have been fairly chunky and have still only gone a little over 2 hours. I don't think there are kind of any sort of major fat out of the reunion.
Okay.
So I'm going to say it might be like a 10-10, 10-15 announcement, but certainly by 10:30, someone's going to be beaming, sitting there $1 million richer.
Okay, I think it'll be after 10:30. Mike, will the pizza be back?
Will Stu still be employed?
Will Stu, if you're just joining us,
yeah, will Stu be furloughed by the time Survivor 43 rolls around? I'm trying to think. Yes, they had. So I was gonna say like, oh, but they went to pizza at the bad place that was the sanctuary. No, but they've had pizza rewards prior to on 41 and 42, right? And still offer them pizza. Pizza is the ultimate RHAP food. I've been to enough set strikes after shows that I've done to know that all people want is pizza. It's the one food we can all agree upon, even after the most acrimonious final tribal councils. You dig into some za, and even Jesse and Cody can be brewing it out. So I think Stu's back in
pizza
business.
pie.
Yeah, exactly. Just keep the key and the lime out of that pie.
I will hope that the pizza is gone.
what is the substitute?
Nothing. Hopefully nothing.
You starve? No, you know what? You get chocolate-covered rice cakes.
Oh, okay. Well, that would be very crunchy. That would be very crunchy. It wouldn't be a lot of chewing, but it would be the crunch. I don't know. It would be great. I just feel like let's take a timeout for 15 minutes. Everybody manja, and then let's be like, hey, let's take 15 minutes. Like, have a drink, get some water, medical. Just do a quick check on these final three. And
well,
then...
don't send him to medical. But you know what happens when you send Cody to medical? I don't want any tents to be destroyed in the process.
Yeah. Okay. Here, have something. Here, eat something quick, and then you have the whole rest of your life to eat whatever you want.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like they like the effect of like people digging into food on television.
Why? What's to like?
It's been a staple of 20 years, Rob, of television.
No, it hasn't.
Of people eating on television.
Not while they're talking and being asked questions.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the decorum sort of goes out the window on Survivor. I want to let's find a substitute though. Is there another food that's a little quieter, a little more subtle, perhaps a little more Cassidy-like, as opposed to perhaps the loudness of the Jesse S. pizza that we can have them partake in that does not feel as egregious?
They can have milkshakes.
Okay, interesting. So we wheel out like a little soda shop cart and say, who wants a root beer float?
Root beer float, milkshake, eggnog if you want to be seasonal.
I mean, it wouldn't be seasonal for them, but sure. When they film those, like, oh, yeah, it's the Christmas episode that we're filming in May.
They can have like a milkshake and a straw.
No, I think you have them chow down on burgers if that's the case. Like, give them burgers, fries, and a milkshake.
Burgers? They're still going to answer the questions.
All right, so something that
the problem isn't the pizza. The problem is that they're talking and
How about like Chinese food? I feel like you don't really stuff your mouth with Chinese food.
Just eat. Take 10 minutes and eat the food.
Right.
Why do we have to? What time are we saving? Or are we on that much of a clock? Or like, hey, we've got an 11:30 flight tonight, so let's eat and film the reunion at the same time.
Yeah, Love Island season 5 is coming in here in like 2 hours. We got to make sure we're in and out by that time. Speaking of in and out, here comes some burgers sponsored by In and Out.
Yeah. So I gotta think when they go back and watch this, they say, what are we doing with the pizza?
Well, here's another idea. So Cody opened up our eyes to a brand new thing from this Dalton Ross interview. Rob, did you know these Survivor contestants in the new era are receiving substances off camera?
No, what are they getting? What are they getting?
Apparently, everyone's given big old baggies of electrolytes.
What is that? What does a bag of electrolytes look like?
I just imagine like an IV bag. Maybe that's a bit.
They're giving them IVs?
Yeah, just like tap into my. I mean, listen, that's like Survivor Australian Outback days, right? Of Elizabeth then Filarski. But Cody told this story to Dalton Ross, I think, of like how one time apparently he bogarted like or asked for everybody's electrolyte bags before a challenge and was just like jazzed up on all this stuff. This man also just seems like an absolute wild guy. I know that like he has his own backstory and everything that I'm glad that we saw, but like this guy just seems like, I know Gabler's the loose cannon, but Cody's like the loose artillery. Like he's the entire armada of looseness because this guy is actively taking electrolytes from other contestants that they need to live. And it's like, let me get a little bit of sip of that. I need to get to 110% for the challenge.
But what are we even doing where it's like, it's the new era. You earn everything. We're not giving you anything, but everybody gets an electrolyte bag. Like what are we doing?
I mean, listen, they saw what happened.
Pick a lane. Pick a lane.
Well, no, Elaine was on a few seasons ago. She maybe she'll come back in another time.
I'm gonna fill my bag up.
Exactly. I'm a little biscuit in a bag that you can squirt in your mouth. Yeah. So that just blew my mind, and I personally don't have a problem with this. I don't want to be the like in my day we did it because I didn't have a day on Survivor.
Yeah.
I don't want them to die out there personally, and they have run out of rice already that they bartered with for Jeff. So.
No, I'm just saying that it's inconsistent of like, this is the hardest season ever. We're not giving them anything. They'll get nothing. You earn everything. And it's also, we will give you electrolytes in a bag.
Could they have won? Maybe they want electrolytes in a reward that we didn't realize. They said, okay, you can trade for any reward you want. And they're like, screw the fishing kit. Give us electrolytes, Jeff.
Or maybe just give them a bag of rice at the start of the season. And what are we doing?
Maybe Savvy or Sweat should be for electrolytes.
And
so you sweat and you get what you sweat out back through the electrolyte bag.
Yeah, maybe it's like just a pre-challenge liability thing. I don't know. It's stupid. I don't really care about the electrolytes. It doesn't happen on camera.
So should they instead be suckling at the teat of electrolyte bags instead? Would that be a bit more polite for you?
And like the idea of the suckling is a disturbing image. But if they had like some sort of like Jamba Juice there where they're giving them an electrolyte milkshake.
No, Jeff Probst has to walk out with 2 electrolyte bags and say,
no, stop.
Suckle.
Don't go. We don't need to go full bloom here. Like hour 45 minutes into this.
Yeah, now we've officially reached the 3rd hour of the Today Show energy.
Okay. Yes. Oh, that's that we have not even scratched the surface, Michael.
Okay, Kathy Lee, here we go.
All right. So, hold to my beer. Okay. So
hold to my electrolytes.
Hold to my electrolyte bag. All right. So, yes or no, pizza will be served.
I'm giving her the big yes, sir. I think again they're gonna say simple food that we can all gather around the table with, and I think you will once again be annoyed. But listen. I want to, we're in a bit of a recession. Let's boost the GDP a bit. I want to keep Stu employed.
Okay. Yes, this is the gross dessert. Yeah.
Gross dessert pizza.
Yeah.
Gross domestic pizza.
All right. So Mike and I have very different visions for what the Survivor finale is going to look like. Mike sees a world where somebody's getting crowned the winner at around 10-12 and being served some za. And I think we're yada rushing through. We're crowning a winner around 10:37. And all right, we'll be back with more with the survivors. And then here's what we're doing in 44 and getting the hell out.
All right. So do you have any other?
No pizza.
So in your world, how many people are we veritably talking to at this epilogue reunion?
How many survivors are getting a question?
Yeah, so we have 11 people, right? Assuming we've been doing what we've usually been doing, of just the jury and the final 3 are there. No pre-jurors come back.
Okay. Here, well, let's just bring up the board again. Okay, let's bring up the chart. Okay.
Poor Robbie.
All right. Let's see. Okay, and here it is. All right. Here's our chart. Okay. Let's question. Okay. Jesse definitely getting a question.
Jesse,
Yesy. Carla will get a question. Cassidy, if she wins, is going to get a question. And if she doesn't, is not going to get a question.
I think everyone who makes the final 3 will get at least one question.
Yeah. All right. Gabler, got to give him a question.
Oh, I gotta have him talk about Gabler. What was your heart rate like as you were going in there?
Yeah. Noel's getting a question. Cody's getting a question. Okay.
Sammy's getting a question.
Does Sammy reveal that he's 19?
Sammy has talked about in our interviews how he told everyone that he was 19, and then Noel sort of one-upped him, I suppose, maybe like an I'm a Paralympian. So unless that happened on screen, I would imagine Sammy did that at Ponderosa.
Okay. All right. So I guess then here's that we're saying that safely 6 or 7 of these people, I think Cassidy is a little bit on the fence. Okay, is Janine getting a question?
See, I guess the question is like, if James and Ryan are, Janine can't be the only one to not get a question.
Well, I was going to ask you about Ryan and James. So
I think Ryan would. I think especially given his own story of, going from being born with cerebral palsy to like doing what he did out there on the island, I think he's getting a question. You think he's too far gone?
Yeah, I have a different vision of the reunion. I think it's going to be tighter, and I think that like, what's the point of like asking a question to somebody that like we already know their backstory? I guess that maybe did they not know that about him? So maybe you maybe give them the opportunity to say that at the final tribal council.
Your reunion could be an email, essentially.
Yeah, my reunion could be an email. Okay. And maybe I'm just like, this is my wish fulfillment of that I was so unhappy with what we got from season 41 and 42 from the reunion.
I mean, I didn't think it was terrible. Of course,
it was to bring the food back into it. I thought it was a nothing burger.
Maybe that's what they should be chowing on. Imaginary burgers.
I think the most memorable thing that happened in the 41 and 42 reunion show was that Evie called Tiffany later days and they ate pizza. Like, I think that those, and Stu makes the pizza, and Jeff said, if you're just joining us, we're talking about pizza. Like, it was completely unmemorable, both of them.
I mean, I think it's tough. I think it was nouveau in the moment to be like, oh, this is interesting. But I think, as happens a lot with Survivor, South Africa blew it out of the water. This past season, they did an on-island reunion, but they did it the day after. Not only that, because they filmed locally, they were able to bring in everybody from the cast, and they did like an out-and-out reunion. So
that sounds very good. That, like, yes. I'm not saying that you can't do anything with the format, but I thought that the 41 and 42 one was really uninspired for what you could have done with it. Mike, I challenge you right now.
Okay.
Name 3 things that happened at the Survivor 42 post-show reunion.
Oh boy.
Mike Bloom, Survivor podcaster, historian of the show, incredible recall for pop culture facts in every single imaginable capacity. Can he name 3 things that happened at the Survivor 42 reunion show?
Your mileage may vary as to whether these count as things, but definitively I remember Mike being surprisingly okay with the fact that he fumbled the ball on the 1 yard line.
Okay. I'll count it. I'll allow it.
I would say, I'm pretty sure, did the Zach thing not get brought up in the reunion?
I don't believe that happened at the reunion show.
You don't think it did? I know there was.
Now this is Mandela effect. You're making things up that happened.
Exactly. What if I could just completely BS my way through this and be like, yeah, I guess it happened. I know that there was definitely some talk about just Jonathan being Jonathan, right? We saw a sequence of like him with the ladder and him
being able to be you, Jonathan.
Yeah, there was definitely like some Herculean feats happening there. And then I would say that there was definitely talk about like Marianne being the weirdo, right? The like doing it for the weird people, her being this unique personality. Oh, no, there was talk about Lindsay being cut from Survivor 41 due to coming down with COVID and being a last-minute alternate for 42.
Okay, I'll allow that. That's a good one. Yeah.
I mean, again, these are not making the top 40 reunion moments whatsoever, but they were something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It just speaks to my point that it was a lot of like, what? Tell us about like the new era. Like it was what is it like? It was not anything that was super exciting. So I hope they do more with it. We don't have to spend too much time on this.
Because your plan for the reunion is that they don't.
I don't think they will. I think they'll just cut it back, and I think that they'll give you more of like, we've got this great story, this great ride in the post merge. I think they'll spend more time there than on just like rehashing things that happen. But
I don't know. Like, look at 3/4 of the tribal councils this season. Has that not been the tone? Why stop now?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's go ahead and bring in a voicemail question. This one is from Justin. Wants us to imagine, an alternate reality for the Survivor reunion. And here is Justin.
Hey, Rob. Hey, Mike. First time, long time. Love you guys. If there is a live reunion, who do you think on the cast would be the biggest blurter?
Who would be the blurter, Mike?
Ooh, so just to define/redefine this, I guess, because this is something that goes all the way back to when we first made our bets, right, on who would talk during the Survivor Cambodia reunion, because we had given sort of like a miscellaneous category to, if you're not called upon, yet you talk, right? I believe when you did it with Jordan Parhar, you talked about Paul Blurt, Paul, the third boot, Paul Wachter, being able to just like talk in the out of nowhere. So I'm trying to think. I mean, I think Cody is probably the biggest blurter. He's blurred the most, considering his middle fingers and his ass. So I think it makes sense that he'd be blurred in a different manner of speaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's definitely a blurter for sure. Second biggest blurter, if we took Cody off the board?
It might be an odd pick. I might go with Noelle.
Yeah, because she's talking on the jury. She's speaking when she's not supposed to.
No decorum. And she's going to be stuffing her face full of pizza as she's making these side comments. And here she is actively losing money as well. Now she's out $10 for whatever per diem she's getting for doing the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. If we get to talk to James, did Noelle actually give you $10? Now, speaking of, instead of Noelle giving money, is she getting money? Will Noelle receive any money from a certain Sia this week?
So this is always such a floating idea because not only is it a who, but it's an idea of quantity as well. Because we've seen with Edge of Extinction, like Sia has levels of her pyramid of like, oh, you get this amount, but there are some people that I want to throw money to. Then there's also, oh, I'll give you this amount of money if you do this thing for me. It's more of a transactional relationship. Noelle will definitely be it, but will she be the or what article are we using here?
Yes. Maybe, Mike, we'll find out at the end of this week. Did Sia have a large share of her financial portfolio in cryptocurrency? Did Sia have a lot of her money with SBF?
Yeah, in Dogecoin, furry face Dogecoin. I mean, listen, we could very easily see Jessia, right? Jessie, I think, sort of has that Rick Devens thing going of big edit, big family story as well. A lot of rooting interest. And if it goes out in a similar
Cody.
way, and
she's living. She's living.
Could be as well. Hawaii is close to LA, I suppose.
Yeah. I think it's Noelle. That Noelle 100K in a separate video after the finale. Are you in or you out?
I would be in. Yeah, I think we'll get a similar story of just like a random, unorthodox. Oh, why don't you look at the camera here for a second? Let's hop on this Zoom call with CBS. Hey, Sia's a big fan, and she sent you some money. I think if he had a bigger edit, I would say Ryan could also be in the running. But again, like you said, too far gone. That was so November. It's December now. December's Noelle month in many ways.
Yes. Okay. So maybe a Merry Christmas. For Noelle. All right. Mike, do we have any other actual business to talk about? Because I have so much nonsense to get to.
Well, let me segue by throwing out a theory that I have come up with. And I'm like so hesitant to say it, partially because of my internet connection, but also like I found a trend, Rob, and I think it needs to be stated. And it's about my namesake. We have had a Mike make the finale yet again for the second season in a row. And we may not realize this, people, but nearly every Mike that has played Survivor has done pretty dang well for themselves. Allow me to put on my Christian Hubicki hat as I turn to my imaginary whiteboard. Rob, there have been 13 Mikes or Michaels who have played over the course of 43 seasons of Survivor. That's like, I mean, that's an average of like one Mike every like 3 or 4 seasons. That's like pretty, pretty recurring. How many do you think have been voted out pre-merge?
I'll say 5.
1.
Now, are you counting medical evacuations?
I'm not, because that's actually voting out. And that's not being voted out. Mikey B is the only Mike who has ever been voted out pre-merge in a season of Survivor. Of course, we have Michael Scoopin and we have Mike Barassi. Be medevac.
A mean motor scooter who was probably on his way to win the game.
And actually, can I go back to Gay Eibler for a second? I think there's a chance that Gabler sort of has this vision-like synthetic body that was created via AI. They said, let's try to create the perfect Survivor contestant. And they did that anime art technology of Mike Barassi, and they just kind of copied his face to make the body of Mike Gabler. Because it like kind of looks like him, but in a little bit more of a glow-up way. He's got the beard, he's got the first name, he's got the same hair or lack thereof. So I think that's essentially like the papa of Mike Gabler at this point. But yeah, everyone else has made the jury. We have had, I believe, if Gabler ends up making the final tribal council, this will be the 5th Mike to make it to the final tribal council. Of course, one has made it in first place in Mike Holloway, but also the past 3 Mikes in Mike White and Mike Turner and possibly Mike Gabler have made it to the final tribal council, and 2 of them finished as runner-ups as well. So like, listen, I don't want to do my namesake here. I don't want to get a disinvitation from Mike Stravaganza, the Mike conventions here. But future players, if you have a Mike on your season, get them the hell off that island.
Yeah. Dirty Dancer says that Barassi only needed electrolytes. Where was my packet?
I think you just have to put him in like the back to tank
They
for a
sent
little
me
while.
downtown to Chinatown.
Just have him submerged in electrolytes for a day before sending him back. But yeah, it's an odd status to discover. Maybe I just pay more attention to it because that's the Leo in me, right? I'm like, let's see how the Mikes are doing. Incredibly well. I know that Natalie is probably like the most popular name, I think, affiliated with Survivor Success. I think Mike might be second.
Okay. We'll see if there are any Mikes that are participating in season 44. And then we'll find out if, as Wendell once suggested,
put the mic down, bro.
Yeah.
Wendell prognosticated it, but he ended up putting down a Mike in the form of Michael Yerker, who also made the jury.
Okay. All right. So, Mike, you've brought up the AI Blair. And this has been a week where there's been so much talk about artificial intelligence. What is happening? What do we do with it? Have you, Mike, gotten a chance to play with, from the creator of the RHAP bot, from the creator of the RHAP bot, there is a brand new Survivor Twitter bot, the Analogy bot.
I have heard so much about it. I have heard of the creation of the lake, but I have not trodden into its lovely waters yet.
The great Daniel Schiffman has created the Survivor Analogy bot, the world's first artificial intelligence that is able to create a original analogy comparing Survivor to anything you throw at it. If you want to try it at home, of course, you can on Twitter, as long as it still exists when you get there. So it is only 62 people are following so far. The Survivor Analogy bot, to which it is the Twitter handle at Survivor is like. And I can demonstrate how it works. Okay. So you tweet at Survivor is like, and Mike, we can do a live demonstration.
Perfect.
And so all we need from you is a suggestion to throw at the amazing Survivor Analogy bot.
Survivor is like your butt falling off.
Okay. I think that probably that in my limited experience, I think we're looking a little bit more like a noun.
I mean, butt is a noun. Okay, Survivor.
If you want to say Survivor is like a butt, you could do that.
I want that. I do want Survivor is like a butt.
Survivor is like a butt. I mean, I didn't really want this publicly in my name to be out there. Survivor is like a butt. I am a grown butt man. I have a family.
I just want to screenshot that and make
Survivor is like a butt, but I'll do it. Okay. Okay. And now we just have to go to the tweets and replies for.
Please, everyone, just go retweet that right now. I want this to go viral.
Okay. And so let's see. We can see some of the ones that people tried. Zach in Boston said Survivor's like the 2004 ALCS.
Was that the Red Sox beating the Yankees?
the Survivor analogy bot said Survivor is like the 2004 American League Championship Series. Both were dominated by the Boston Red Sox and New York Yankees, but one team finally succeeded against all odds to win the series.
Now,
So,
were there prominent New York Yankees who've done well in Survivor? Like, does Tom Westman count?
I mean,
as
I
a New
think
York
Boston
Yankee?
Rob, I think technically is a prominent pseudo member of the Boston Red Sox.
The Red Sox, I have no quibble with. It's more so the Yankees side.
Jordan
of things.
Kalish.
I don't think
okay.
anyone. I don't know. Has anyone worn a Yankees cap out there on Survivor?
Probably some front runner out there. Okay.
Maybe like back during the days of like Ken from Survivor Thailand, maybe wore one.
Yeah, maybe. Let's see. So I don't know. Maybe there's like some sort of like profanity filter on the. I don't know.
Yeah. What's the rating system on this?
Let's see. Okay. Well, I guess maybe give it a second. I don't know if it like maybe we stumped it.
Well, that being said, so cut to like 2 years from now, Jeff Probst is going to complain that robots took over his job, right? Like this is doing about 60% of the work that he's doing currently on Survivor.
Yeah, because the analogy bot, I think it's still working on it. Okay.
Okay. It's got a lot to think about, right?
A lot to think about. How that goes. So let's keep an eye on that. Okay. Chat, please let me know if the Survivor analogy bot ends up coming up with things. So this is just one area.
I mean, I love
artificial intelligence is working on things. And
okay,
and maybe
there's like a 10-minute queue according to the chat that is going on right now.
And that may also be that, we want to, maybe I'm just guessing, but based off of some of the other bots, sometimes it's like garbage in, garbage out. And sometimes they want to make sure that the bot is not saying anything super inappropriate on its own.
No, I think, listen, we want only the curated tastes from this Survivor bot, which I handily think this is an absolutely incredible idea. Have you gotten a response yet?
No, I think the chat is saying that there is a little bit of a queue, so we're gonna circle back to Survivor.
Well, are we on hold right now, essentially, at the customer service line of this bot?
Yeah, but Mike, look, we're just scratching the surface of what the artificial intelligence can be doing with Survivor. Mike, are you familiar with a little thing called Chat GPT?
Okay, so I had just heard about this, that this is another AI, right, that you can like put a prompt into and they'll respond with something?
Yeah, Chat GPT, it is another artificial intelligence that's out there that is in the same way where sort of like the DALL-E Mini was able to sort of like combine different thoughts into creating original images. The Chat GPT, and I'm sure that there are many people that can speak to this in a much more intelligent way than I am able to. It is a very intuitive.
This is when I take off my Christian Hubicki hat right now because I cannot explain this.
And hand it off to me. That it is a very intuitive artificial intelligence prompt that basically can have a dialogue with you, and you can ask it any number of requests for things in any particular format that you are looking for, and it will try to intuitively put together the information that you are looking for. And so I have been playing with this for the last couple of days.
Okay.
And I have been working with Chat GPT to I have a lot of like Survivor things that are on my brain that I wanted to see if some of the like world's most incredible computing powers are able to help us with.
Yeah, I mean, GPT, as we know, stands for Gabler Prevails theory. So I'm assuming the AI appropriately is on Gabler's side here if we put a lot of scenarios in there.
Okay. So, Mike, I started off and I asked the Chat GPT, can you come up with some new exciting twists for Survivor?
Look at this. Screw the Shark Tank. It's all robot sharks now.
Because it's the new era. You got to keep it exciting. And there's nothing that would be more new era than some exciting twists that were developed by ChatGPT.
Okay, so let's hear these things. Listen, We're in a new era. We're open for ideas, right? We know that some ideas work, some do not. Which ones are going to go immediately into the trash, and which ones are we going to try out for a season or two?
All right, this one was pretty intense. Okay, this is what.
Oh, is it that they stay intense? That's their twist for the season.
Okay. So no, not well. I guess so, Mike. Hear me out. Okay. So one of the twists that ChatGPT came up with was the contestants are stranded on a deserted island with no food, water, or shelter, and must survive on their own for a month before the competition begins. Okay. So imagine this. Imagine, and honestly, I'm like, you know what? Like, if they gotta like sequester for COVID anyway, like, why not, Mike?
So it's like Survivor before Survivor. Like, you really want to do this? Stay a
Instead
month
of
out
day
here.
0, this is day 0 through 29.
Day negative 30.
Yeah. Oh, it's like, hey, the game's only a 26-day game. Yeah. Well, we've been living on this island for 30 days before the game started.
Now that'd be interesting, right? Because I know they oftentimes, I don't know if they did this, they probably did this with the Amazon for You, Rob, just because of how dangerous it is. Like, they give a lot of lectures preseason, right? Of like, you can eat this plant, you can't eat this plant. When you're in the jungle, make sure you do this, do that. What a better way to test those skills than throw them into the jungle for an entire month beforehand? Now the question is, do you document any of this? Or are they just are they separated? Like, is this pregame where they're not allowed to talk to each other?
No, they're all separated. I think they're all like filming like Blair Witch style, like their journey of like.
So this is like a Bear Grylls thing, right? Of like, I'm gonna film myself.
Yes. Imagine the game started. It's day 0. All these people have been living out on the island in their own separate places for 30 days before the game starts, and then they've been separated with no human contact.
I mean,
this is incredible.
Truly, then, competing for electrolytes would be the equivalent of pizza, right? Because these people would be on their last legs. Carla would just be a rolling head on the ground by that point.
Yeah. Okay. Mike, we have word that the Survivor analogy bot is here. Has given us a response. Okay.
Oh no.
Let's go live to the Survivor analogy bot. Okay.
Okay.
Survivor's like a butt. The analogy bot says Survivor is like a booty call.
Well,
you don't always know you're going to get it. You don't always know where you're going to get it from or what you're going to get. But you know, it's never going to be anything better than this.
Wow. Survivor is like account. It's a little bit of a whore.
Yeah.
They're just like, anytime, anywhere.
You give that answer, Tribal Council. Jeff's like, okay, all right, yeah, all right.
All right, I'm picking up what you're putting down, but I am cleaning it afterwards because I don't know where it's been.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about a palate cleanser, Mike? Like, let's go, like, put one more in the oven before, we got time.
Yeah. How about Survivor is like Birkenstock sandals.
Okay.
Do brand names count here?
I think so. Birkenstock, is that the correct spelling?
I believe so.
Okay. Survivor's like Birkenstock sandals. Okay.
Yeah, I think that'd be interesting.
All right. Let's let the analogy bot marinate on that.
Well, let's go back to the pregame month. This is an incredible idea.
Yeah. Okay. It's ChatGPT is like not a fan of like 26-day game because that all of its ideas that it gave me were pretty intense. Okay.
Okay, listen, they're very old school, right? When you heard, I heard initially like no food, no twist. I'm like, okay, are they frequenting Zoe's Lobster Shack? ChatGPT.
Okay. All right. Here's another one, Mike. Okay. The contestants are not only competing against each other, but also against the elements, as the island is plagued by natural disasters and other dangers they must overcome in order to survive.
Okay, I love this.
Now that's exciting.
So we get a weather machine and we put it on the island, and it's almost like we cycle between the torrid, rains of a monsoon that has previously caused evacuations. The next day, sleet. The next day, blistering heat.
Yeah. Plagued by natural disasters.
This is essentially the day after tomorrow, Survivor Edition.
Yeah. And also, like, you have to still play the game. Like, it's like Like
Now-
it's like, oh my god, like mudslide, and also knowledge is power. You got to deal with
Now-
both of those things.
Could we also focus on the plagues though and make it a bit more biblical?
Yes.
Could we bring in like gnats?
Like Tenorelli, White,
Yeah, exactly.
Anderson.
All the Natalie's coming out like Cochrane, just like buzzing around your ear, trying to give you
Bolton.
advice.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, let's not go fully to the death of the firstborn son, though. If you really want to up the stakes, I suppose that could be it. But yeah, I love this idea of like, well, Jeff, we don't know what's going to happen. Someone could play their shot in the dark tonight, and tomorrow an earthquake could swallow our entire camp whole. That's just the way Survivor is sometimes. You got to roll with the punches and the weather forecasts.
Yeah. Okay. One more of the ChatGPT created twist. And this one, look, a lot of people have been looking for ways to, how do we get the loved ones twist back in the, how do we get the loved ones back involved?
I have a lot of fear given the previous two intensity. I'm very scared.
Okay, this is what ChatGPT came up with.
I like you are automatic. You're still putting out a disclaimer. This is not my
This
word.
was not my idea. Okay, I simply asked the prompt, come up with new exciting twists for Survivor, and I did ask for exciting. Okay, so this is one of the twists. Swear to God. Okay, this is AI created. The contestants are not only competing for individual immunity, but also for the safety of their loved ones who are stranded on a separate part of the island and must be protected at all costs.
But must be protected?
I guess maybe this might be the natural disasters. They might be on the natural disaster island where they filmed that other season of Survivor. That
naturally it's a disaster.
Want to know what you're playing for? Immunity and the safety of your loved one who is on the natural disaster island.
I've got a tape for you, and it's like I'm Sammy's mom. This is a newspaper with today's date.
Sammy, I'm in a lot of danger.
Worth playing for.
The safety of their loved ones. What happens to the loved ones that don't win individual immunity?
They will be taken and executed. I think now Jeff Probst's words are finally come to. You thought it was just an idle threat beforehand, but now my words have become prophetic.
So, I don't know. Look,
now
I think it's worth exploring.
Well, here's the question, right? The loved one's visit is such a milestone, right? It's one of those moments that you always talk about on Survivor. So the question is, like, at that point, are the loved ones released from their hostage-like captivity? Is it only the winner gets their loved ones back, and everyone else, they get thrown into the netherworld or wherever they end up going?
See, in the way I'm looking at this, it's almost like that survive. It's like the challenge, and in order to run like TJ's final, like you have to win individual immunity once to save your loved one. And so maybe the survivor's like, oh, well, maybe like Mike's, like we need to let like Mike like rescue Angela. It's like, yeah, but I might get voted out. So, you're. I think it's very interesting. It adds a whole nother layer to the game.
Yeah, you've won the bad blood advantage, where you get to curse someone to automatically lose their loved one, no matter what.
Yeah. Okay. We do have a response from the Survivor analogy bot about the Birkenstock sandals. I
hope it is as racy as the previous one. Okay. And by the way, we went pretty PG with butt, and they took it to booty call.
Yeah. Okay. Survivor is like a pair of Birkenstock sandals. It will get you through any tough situation. I don't know. Is that true?
I feel like Birkenstocks have become a little overrated.
Yeah.
I feel like, especially, they are so open-toed that it feels like any sort of debris can get in there.
Yeah, I would not wear it to any like on tough as nails, certainly.
No, because you can get a tough nail through your Birkenstock.
Yeah,
that's for
get a tetanus shot if you wear Birkenstocks, and Phil will dress you down also.
So here's the thing. This is how knowledge is power becomes even more interesting. Not only can you ask, like, give me your idol, give me your advantage, give me your loved one. They're my family now. Wow. That's my wife.
So you could just steal somebody's wife. on Survivor.
And listen, we talked about Jesse being brutal by using his friend's idol against him. Imagine if he did that and then also stole his wife from the other side of the island.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Talk about Mr. Steal Your Girl.
That I can't even compute.
Yeah, it'd be wild, right? Of like, and Jesse has won $1 million, the title of sole survivor, and a new wife.
Mm-hmm. Boy, see, and that's where you would need the reunion show. I think even the one on the island, I think would really be spicy after another player stole somebody's spouse with knowledge is power.
Right, exactly. And that's the other thing as well. It'd also be like a nice combination with Love is Blind, right? There'd be a bit of a pod aspect of like, congratulations, meet your new husband that was stolen from you.
Yeah.
You get to know them now. They directly stole you away from your husband.
Okay, Mike. All right. So we have just scratched the surface. I saw all of those twists that Chat GPT came up with, and I'm like, what else is this capable of? Okay. So, Mike, this week's episode of Survivor was called what, Mike? Telenovela. Okay. And so I got to wondering, could this incredible artificial intelligence, could it actually write a Survivor telenovela?
Do you have
Would that
the
be
strings?
possible?
Do you have the strings handy to play Carla's theme?
So I don't know if this is
anthem?
Carla's theme. I did ask Sam Moore to see if he can give us some telenovela music.
The expert on telenovelas himself, Sam Moore.
Let's see. Okay. Let me tell you about the Survivor telenovela created by Chat GPT.
Oh, I love this. Can we call it As the Vote Turns?
As the vote turns, yes. Or whatever the Spanish translation is at. Okay. Yeah. All right. Owen is a charming, handsome man who has always dreamed of winning Survivor. He is the son of a wealthy family.
Oh,
and
I didn't know that from the backstories.
Yeah, you didn't know that. Has never had to struggle for anything in his life. Would have liked the track without lyrics, if we're going to be honest. Next time I'll ask Chat GPT. He's determined to prove himself on the island.
Mm-hmm. Valid.
Jesse is Owen's rival on the show.
Oh.
He is a strong and cunning strategist who will stop at nothing to win the game.
No lies detected.
He is also attracted to Owen, but he knows that he is a threat to his game.
Okay,
and he must keep him at arm's length.
I thought this was complicated enough. Now we throw a romantic angle into it.
Yes. Yes. I gave the names to ChatGPT. I did not assign any sort of romantic interest.
I mean, now it gives the whole new meaning to Jesse coming to Owen and being like, this is trust right now.
Cody is a former military man who is tough and resourceful.
Oh, well, that's okay. Yes. I don't know what military he came from.
He is also secretly in love with Carla, a beautiful and kind-hearted nurse.
Nurse? Well, I think she needs to treat herself. She's got a few things to patch up.
But Carla is torn between her feelings for Cody and her loyalty to her ally, Gabler.
Oh, interesting. So we've got a love. All right. So how does this geometrically map out? So there's like a love triangle, and then there's like an offshoot of that into another sort of square shape.
Well, let me tell you about Gabler. Gabler is a ruthless businessman who will do whatever it takes to win the game.
I'm just imagining him in a three-piece suit.
He is Carla's
time to go to work. These children can't be hatched by themselves.
He is Carla's closest ally. But he also has his eye on Cassidy, a wealthy socialite who is new to the game of Survivor.
Cassidy actually kind of reminds me of a wealthy socialite. Like, she has that look. I can imagine her in a flowing cocktail dress talking about the risings and fallings and Papa, where's the Rolls Royce?
As the game progresses, tensions rise and alliances are formed and broken. Owen and Jesse are constantly at odds, while Cody struggles to win Carla's heart. Gabler schemes to take out his rivals, but he is blindsided by a shocking twist in the game.
Oh,
might be Mr. Steal Your Wife.
I mean, it might be that his wife gets stolen by Cassidy.
In the end, it comes down to a final showdown between Owen and Jesse. And in a shocking betrayal, Jesse reveals he has been playing both sides of the game and has been secretly working with Gabler all along.
What? Dun, dun, dun.
Yes. To which Gabler must have said, I can't do it, caramba.
Caramba.
But his plan backfires when Owen wins the final immunity challenge and takes Gabler to the final tribal council.
Oh, well, I'm glad ChatGPT is so old school that they go with a final 2 here. No bells and whistles here. Clean end game with the natural disaster.
It's old school. It's old school. And in a heated final tribal council, Owen and Gabler make their case to the jury, but in the end, it is Owen who emerges victorious and is crowned the ultimate survivor.
So this is the sole fiction that has Owen winning this season in a
Yes.
telenovela where he loves yet feuds with and votes out Jesse to take Gabler, the dressed up businessman, to the end with him.
Nobody would vote for the businessman.
Nobody
that was very
votes for
shrewd. That was very shrewd. And that's why Jesse was working with him the whole time.
Now, he called himself the Alligabler, but I think he's more so speaking to his Alligabler shoes that he brought into the game with him as the big businessman.
Yeah. So, wow.
Ay, caramba.
That was incredible. The Survivor telenovela. Could we go back to the Survivor is like, because maybe Survivor is like a telenovela.
Oh, I really like that. I think, listen, I
All
don't
right,
think
one
anything-
more. Third
Yeah, I
time's
think
the charm.
Survivor is like a telenovela.
Survivor is like a telenovela. Okay. All right. Let's see what happens there. All right, Mike, I have one last thing for you from ChatGPT. I'm sorry. I've got
Please.
all in on ChatGPT because
How could you not?
I am
This is
obsessed.
paying out. This is the hot slot machine at the casino right now. I'm obsessed with how much you've been able to milk this cow. You're suckling at the electrolyte teats right now and filling your cup.
Fill my bag up. Okay. All right. So, we did get a question from one of our listeners this week, and the question was for Mike Bloom.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody wanted to know. Let me see if I can just find that question, and it was asking us. I know I had it here. Okay. Yes.
Why don't you just tell me the question you want to ask?
Sorry. Charlie West wanted to know, where has the Survivor Devil been hanging out?
I mean, is he not in front of us all along?
And so, Mike, if you go ahead and click on the link I sent you, I asked ChatGPT to write a script of Mike Bloom talking to the Survivor Devil. And so if you are so inclined,
Please.
why don't we go ahead and see what the Survivor Devil had to say to Mike Bloom.
Okay, so we talked about this before with set strikes. I do have a panache for the theatrical. So right now, just to reset the deck, if you're just joining us, we are doing a script reading of a dialogue created by an AI between myself and my deity, the Survivor Devil, who has not made an appearance on this podcast in 5 years.
In 5 years, that's right. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
All right, let's do this. I have the first line. Are you prepared on your end? Or is the Survivor Devil prepared on his end, I should say?
I think so. Okay. I will be playing the part of the Survivor Devil tonight.
Wow, curtain is truly open at this point. Now we get to see how the electrolytes are made.
Okay. All right. So you'll be reading the part for Mike.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
I need to get into Mike Bloom character for a
Okay.
second. But okay.
Yes, wait, no, this is not what Survivor is like, Mike. Okay.
All right, here we go. Hey there, Survivor Devil. What brings you to my podcast today?
Oh, I just thought I'd stop by and ruin your favorite TV show, Survivor.
You wouldn't dare. I sound like Cassidy the socialite. Survivor is the best show on television.
Oh, I think I would. I've been causing chaos on the island since the very first season.
Wow. But why, Survivor Devil? Why do you want to ruin the show?
Because it's just so much fun. I love watching the contestants squirm and scheme. Plus, it's hilarious to see the look on your face when your favorite player gets voted off.
I'll go improvise a bit here. Survivor Devil, I don't know if you saw Malcolm getting voted out of Survivor Game Changers.
No, you should have seen the look on your face, Bloom.
Oh, I did. Several times. I can't look at a phone during a live event without looking at that. That's not funny, Survivor Devil. You're ruining the integrity of the game.
Integrity? Pfft, this is Survivor, not a chess tournament. It's all about deception and strategy.
Wow, shots fired at James. Well, I guess there's no reasoning with you, Survivor Devil. I'll just have to hope that the contestants can outsmart you and make it to the end.
Good luck with that, Mike. I've got my eye on a few players who I think have the potential to be the next big villain.
Oh no, not another Russell Hantz.
Ha! You'll just have to
Russell
tune
Hantz.
in.
How does it know Russell Hantz's name?
You'll just have to tune in to find out. See you on the next season of Survivor.
Ugh, I can't believe I have to deal with you every season. You're the worst, Survivor Devil.
And you're the best, Mike Bloom. Keep on podcasting, my friend.
This is an incredibly toxic relationship.
I thought it was touching. The Survivor Devil signed off and said, "You're the best, Mike Bloom. Keep on podcasting, my friend."
I feel like I'm in the White Lotus of like, I just feel like all our laundry is being aired in this conversation. I'm in a loveless marriage. I stole the Survivor Devil from someone, and this is what I got.
Amazing. The Chat GPT knew about Russell Hantz.
Yeah, that is, I mean, now we know who's behind it, right? Like, all right, I made this. All right, you nerds who made this, you eggheads. The first name you got to put in there is Russell Hantz.
I don't even like that little GPT.
I don't even like that little binary hat.
Yeah. All right. Just incredible. Like real quick,
Beautiful.
one last thing.
Yeah.
Look, I feel like if you're 2 hours and 40 minutes into this, like, I'm guessing that you are not offended by what we're doing here.
Listen, in retrospect, when I stand within the hollowed out husk that remains of civilization in 10 years, will I say I contributed partially to the downfall of civilization by laughing and cheering on an AI bot? Sure, but I'm going to have a good time doing so, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sleeping with the Survivor Devil, quite literally, so I might as well enjoy my roll in the sheets.
Okay. Last one. I asked ChatGPT, can you write some funny, I said hilarious. Can you write some hilarious holiday tweets that are about Survivor?
Now, do any of these feature cardboard cutouts of fellow CBS reality show stars?
No, these are just tweets. So let me give you some tweets. Tell me if I should use any of these maybe
right.
this month. Okay. Let's see. Looks like Santa got stranded on Survivor Island. He's been hoarding cookies and dodging tribal councils all week. # Survivor Santa.
Oh, so Survivor Santa, let's see if it's taken or not. I think that could definitely be a upstart of a brand. I think, I mean, at least relates to the show, right? Hoarding cookies is more of like a Jericho from Australian Survivor thing, but we can cross the streams a bit.
Okay. All right. So like we're working our way into it. Okay. How about this one where what do you get when you mix Survivor with Christmas, Mike?
Well, you did say it had to be hilarious, so I guess it makes sense that it's writing jokes. What do you get if you cross Survivor with Christmas, it's got to be, I don't know, something with Noel. I'm not entirely sure.
A tribal council full of bickering elves and a big fat jury of reindeer. Hashtag Survivor Holidays.
Oh no, BFJR, big fat jury of reindeer. I mean, let's go back to the chart. Who's Dasher gonna vote for between Owen, Cassidy, and Kate?
Oh, good question. Good question. Okay.
I think Rudolph respects big moves.
All right. One last one from my holiday tweets. Survivor Island is starting to look a lot like Whoville, with all the Grinches, Cinderellas, and Scrooges trying to make it to the end. Hashtag Survivor Holidays.
What are those things? I don't know.
Look, they go more together than heroes, healers, and hustlers, Mike. Because Survivor Grinches, Cinderellas, and Scrooges. Okay. Now,
All
really,
right.
what's the difference between a Grinch and a Scrooge, really? Are that
Okay, well, one is more actionable. Like
one's a socialite, like Cassidy.
Yeah, like you're a Grinch. You don't like something, so you go out and ruin it. You're a Scrooge. You make everyone around you miserable by bringing them down to your level. You're a Cinderella. You were born in misery, but you're able to claw your way out of it. Who will truly prevail here?
Yeah. So I feel like the Grinches, Cinderellas, and Scrooges, like the Scrooges are the people, the really rich people. They're the white collar people, bah humbug. The Cinderella, they're the blue collar people. They're working all day. And Grinch is more no collar. They're more like
green
like
collar.
living, green collar. Like they live off in a mountain somewhere. They have like a dog as their only friend.
Yeah, I would say.
I think it works.
I think it ends up working. I mean, it'd be interesting to classify. Like, I would say Jesse is sort of like, I don't know, like he came in as a Cinderella, but he's playing like a Scrooge. Or more like a Grinch, actually. He kind of robbed Cody, much like the Grinch robbed Whoville. Cody is not singing Taludore. Though he kind of said that on the way out, right? Taludore and aloha.
All right. Did we get a response from the...
I'm sure we did, yeah.
Yes. Oh, okay. Both we did, and then Stacked in Florida both sent Survivors like a telenovela.
Oh, let's see how diverse they are in their responses here.
So let's bring this back up. Okay. So Survivors like a telenovela. Survivors like a telenovela because it's so cheesy. Jeff really ruins this metaphor by bringing up Claire like she's the antagonist of one. She's not. At no point did she do anything like that. She's actually a pretty good ally, all things considered. I totally agree. Claire has a lot of grace. She is a child of God.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is, like, Claire has gotten the most purple of purple edits. No one's even mentioned Claire this season, but she has been so good. And frankly, I think it's completely unfair that she's being villainized. You know, they say like, well, if she's not on the show, she must have done something particularly heinous. No, I think that Claire is really somebody that has been so essential to the lifeblood of this show. And it's just her, you know, her refusal to be admitted on is just an egregious injustice that has no reflection upon her morality.
Yeah. Also, the Survivor Analogy bot continues on to say, and calling your allies wonk sticks is still better than if Jeff was a doctor. That is true.
I mean, I could imagine you may
Aging Dr. Jeff.
I would imagine you may push people away if you start calling them wonk sticks.
Do not do that. Do not do that.
Isn't that what Cody made for Carla, a wonk stick?
Yeah. Yeah, he did make Carla that wonk stick.
That was the greatest extent to which he was an ally to her.
Yes. Okay. Claire is an ally. That she's not the antagonist of a telenovela. Okay. All right.
I'm just imagining Dr. Jeff like, all right, instead of rating your pain on a scale from 1 to 10, how would you relate this to buying a car?
I would say it's a 9er, 9.5.
How is this like checking if the bill is counterfeit or not? Like, Jeff, my leg is broken.
All right. And then Stacked in Florida also said Survivor's like a telenovela. This time, Survivor Analogy Bot said Survivor is like a telenovela because there's as much backbiting and scheming as there is in a telenovela. And like a telenovela, if you make one wrong move, you'll end up getting voted off. True. So true. Just like every telenovela. Yeah.
I would watch more telenovelas, not only for the language barrier, but if I knew there was voting out happening on there.
Yeah. Also, just to tweak the analogy bot, like probably don't use the thing you're saying. It's like an analogy. Like a telenovela, you make one wrong move. I guess so. I guess it works. Yeah.
I would say it's like saying ATM machine. Like, don't invoke the noun inside the description of the noun.
No, it works. It works. So leave Claire out of this, and
Claire's done nothing.
Yeah, leave Claire alone.
All of us in the delusional Claire club, we're here to say, get her out of the narrative.
All right.
Actually, you know what? Put in my last minute bid, $10. Claire's winning this season.
Okay.
I think Gabler cast his vote for Claire.
Yeah. Did you want to talk about that wonking stick secret scene?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this. So it's on Survivor, the Survivor on CBS YouTube page. Now, look, we are a long ways away from back in the days of voting confessionals and unedited confessionals. I will say, I think one thing that we are really missing in this new era are the voting confessionals. It comes at the cost of, again, really wanting to let the mystery be, in a manner of speaking, and save the leftovers for next week. But I miss getting to hear from people in the voting booth. We did a voting confessionals outwit I'll play out list. I feel like outside of Cassidy talking about the gun being full of blanks, which sounds like a telenovela plot in and of itself, we haven't really gotten voting confessionals at all. And back in the day, we used to see them all prior to, the Nicaragua scandal.
Sure. Okay, so Mike, do you want me to play this?
If you want to play it starting about like halfway through. So essentially, as you noticed, Carla has a walking, not wonking stick that Cody had made for her. And there's a secret scene where they talk about
if she could use Jeff being a doctor, actually, and not being a wonking stick. Yeah.
Yeah, and Carla may be voted out in 5th place, much like Coach Wade, so it might be the curse of the wonking stick. But Cody is going to talk a little bit about making the walking stick, knowing well and true at this moment he is crafting not only an instrument to get her amble, but also her demise.
Okay. All right, let's go halfway through.
That's a walking stick? You need but bamboo might this will work. See if this one works. We can cut this though. We got a saw. I don't know. It don't matter. Yeah, that's true. Bring it. Might as well make it nice. If she's gonna walk in and travel with it, might as well look cool. Yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah. I'm making Carla a walking stick, not because I'm a facetious a-hole. Like she hurt her ankle, so I went and got her a walking stick, and I figured, what the hell? I'm going to make her a beautiful walking stick. I'm going to put living on there, which is what's tattooed on my butt cheek, so she has a little memory.
You gonna be okay? Yeah, I'll be okay. We're almost there. And he really painted the entire thing. Where's this stick? Wow, that stick looks great, actually. Man, what a privilege. What an honor.
This is going to be awesome. I'm afraid I'm going to have to, I hope we don't sit by each other at tribal, because this walking stick that I'm making, she's going to beat me with it on the way out, bro. Like, she's going to beat me with it. I'm terrified. Like, thank God she's got a beat up ankle so that way I can run from her. Always, I want to get beat up by the damn walking stick that I've made for her.
Wow. That's assault, brother.
Yeah, so as, wild and dramatic as that ending could have been, it also, in a different world, could have resulted in a Benny Hill-esque chase sequence of Carla yielding a switch. Get
back here! Yeah.
As she's chasing Cody in circles around tribal council.
Why you? Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things to take away from this. First, Cody deciding, all right, I'm going to put my trademark on this, which is to paint the thing that is branded on his ass on the walking stick, to be like, something to remember me by, kid. I just think it's such an interesting maneuver, especially in retrospect, given the fact that he ends up going. I know there was a lot of incredible stuff to really foreshadow this. One thing that I picked up on the second time watching the episode, I don't know if you noticed this, Rob, when Cody's doing the infamous confessional about like, I'm a sponge, I picked up so much stuff in this game, call me Wild Cody, Cowboy Cody, etc. The camera is very subtly zooming in on Cody. It's a very small, subtle zoom in, but to me, it represents how things are closing in around Cody, and he doesn't even know it. And I thought it was just like a small, subtle touch that shows the cinematography of this season has been absolutely out of this world. But I love that this is yet another piece of this, that he is making this stick for her to be like, you'll take your first and last steps out of tribal council using this stick that has my own catchphrase written all over it.
Yeah. Also, like, I feel like if you were going to give somebody a walking stick, like, to paint it, like, I feel like that, the person is using it, like, that was all, like, right before tribal council. Like, I feel like there's going to get a lot of, like, paint on her hands, no?
Could this be purposeful? Did he watch Drea be red-handed last time? And it's like, okay, if Carla went through my bag, took my idol, now I'll know it.
Right. That this is going to be payback for when she uses knowledge as power against him, and then he's able to get her out of the game. So, that's it would have been an interesting moment.
I mean, I definitely think beating a contestant with a stick would certainly be a Survivor moment. Certainly a Consumer Cellular moment that might pass the test of time.
Consumer Cellular knows that having a great connection is something you can't beat with a stick.
Unlike Carla and Cody. Keep on living, keep on calling. Consumer Cellular.
Okay. Where do we go from here, Mike?
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we need to talk about.
I've got some other Jeff Probst stuff to show you.
Please let's get Probst posterous, if you will.
Okay. All right. So that the CBS TikTok has been such a treasure trove these last couple of weeks.
Putting it mildly, yeah.
Okay. So we got so much mileage last week with Bryce talking about Jeff and the CBS holiday party. But I have been informed that the CBS TikTok page is still going strong with plenty of stuff. So let's go ahead and put this in and see what Jeff is up to on the old CBS Instagram, not TikTok.
Okay, interesting. I'll see if he's by himself.
All right. So I guess Jeff is he answering like fan questions here?
Now, so the picture, for those that are listening, is Jeff is pulled a ballot out of an urn that I'm assuming is the same soundstage that they filmed the I'm All Alone commercial here. So I'm imagining, is he reading the question off the ballot? Did he write down the answer on the ballot and is revealing it?
I think that they've given Jeff a bunch of questions and they put them in the urn, and Jeff's opening the urn and answering the questions. The question is, if they were to make a Survivor movie, who would you want to play you, Jeff? Okay. All right. Let's see what Jeff has to say.
Survivor movie, and why wouldn't they? Who would you want to play you?
Okay. Mike, do you have a guess?
I mean, I know who it should be. I'm less sure about who it would be.
Yes. Who should it be?
Tom Cruise.
Okay. I'm going to divide.
Okay. I don't want to do it yet. I feel like that if I have to guess, Jeff is going to say some actor that we have never heard of that's like a friend of his.
Oh, interesting. So you're thinking this is like a finder's fee person?
Yes, like a personal friend of Jeff's who is
Tyler Perry.
Yeah, I say that Jeff does not give like a
Cody,
like an answer that you have heard of.
Need a surf an analogy. I'm imagining Medea hosting Survivor.
Would Medea be a Cinderella, a Grinch, or a Scrooge?
Definitely a Scrooge. I have not seen Medea's Family Christmas, but I'm pretty sure she's Scroogey.
Okay. All right. Let's see what Jeff has to say.
Divide this into decades that I've been on Survivor. The first decade, Harry Styles.
Okay. So young Jeff. Jeff is Harry Styles.
Young Jeff is Harry Styles. Okay. As it was, I suppose young Jeff did have that glimmer in his eye. I mean, talk about Mr. Steal Your Wife. I think that Jeff certainly had that energy about him with Julie Berry.
Okay. All right. So then what about the middle-aged Jeff?
Young, bright, fun. Middle decade, Ryan Reynolds.
Okay, Ryan Reynolds.
I mean, listen, Jeff Probst's snark, I think, was very prominent during, like, I would say the post-All-Stars to Teens era, right? We saw this most infamously with Penner. So I think that makes sense. It's very Deadpool.
My ass.
Exactly. Like, very, very, very sarcastic, I would say. A bit more of like, okay, I'm larger and in charger here.
Okay, and then what about the modern era, Jeff?
A little more sophisticated, cultured action hero. He's funny. And then for the last decade, Stallone. But here's the twist, because there's always a twist. They actually represent me in reverse order, because really in the beginning, I'd be more like Stallone. Then in the middle, I'm trying to get like Ryan Reynolds. And right now, I only want to be Harry Styles.
Okay.
Wow.
We got a little Survivor guy by the end of this.
I mean, he threw the paper away,
Mhm.
and I think I threw any expectations I had about Jeff Probst as a person out the window as well. So we got a little bit of like a Benjamin, not Coach Button situation here, right? Of like, he's a Sylvester Stallone and Harry Styles body. First, that's the body swap movie that I personally want to see on my flight anywhere I go.
Hey,
Middle
yo,
sta-
Gabler, give me an analogy. what if this was a boxing match? This is a tug of war.
Cassidy! Cassidy wins immunity! Cassidy!
Okay, wow.
If they were to make a Survivor,
All right, so I hope there's more of these.
That is, but like the fact that Jeff Probst now wants to be Harry Styles, now it's all unlocked for me. Like now I'm realizing what he's trying to embody right now. He's trying to be hip, tapped into the bloodstream of this modern day culture, right? Like he really is so into, maybe this is why he keeps casting the young people. He's interested in the teenagers. Like he is chasing that fountain of youth at this point. He's licked the droplets, but he wants to dip his whole face in.
Gonna fill his cup up. So that's incredible. So yeah, keep it coming at the CBS holiday party. And then there was another video that we flagged this week, that there was a clip from the Last Gasp challenge that the CBS Instagram shared. Now, interestingly, there were no disclaimers on the actual episode that we watched. However, it is my understanding that there needed to be a disclaimer on the TikTok video. Let's take a look at it. Okay. All right.
That water is rising.
So, interesting disclaimer here. The actions in this video are performed by professionals or supervised by professionals. Do not attempt. Yeah. Are any of these people professional survivors or divers?
Well, I guess the question is, if you play Survivor once, does that make you a professional Survivor player? I mean, certainly, if we check the LinkedIn of some people, I think they would want to make it their profession. Even if you last gasp for 2 minutes, does that make you an expert on it?
I guess they were supervised by professionals.
I'm getting a lot of Jackass vibes from this disclaimer.
Is this a TikTok thing? Does that
now?
So, interesting, right?
Yeah, that is. Yeah, I guess that's something automatic, right? How Twitter sets up the, disputed information, just so you know, this is the thing. It just automatically flags people are professionally drowning in the Survivor Challenge. So please do not stick your face under a grate as the tide slowly rises if you want to inflict that onto yourself. People might. They want to test challenges at home, right? We talk about people making challenges in their backyard. They might want to do this now in Last Gasp, though I think it might be on its way out, taking the wonking stick with it, considering how it went last time.
Yeah. Okay. And leave Claire out of this. All right. Mike, anything else that you want to make sure we cover here today? We've been through it all, I think.
I mean, truly. I
see what the chat is saying.
Yes. What does the chat say? Much like the fox that is Cassidy. I mean, I cannot speak enough about like how much I want to thank this cast. And I feel like I want to say that every season. I will still always beat the drum that, in my opinion, the casting is the strongest thing about modern day Survivor, even before the new era came about. And I just feel like these people are so interesting. I think what I really like about this season is, as much as we might talk about the moves that Jesse in particular is making and perhaps putting himself on a next level, I do feel like everyone is kind of on an even playing field when it comes to like the ability to make moves, wanting to make moves, getting to have them sort of strike out in their different ways. I feel like it was a fairly evenly matched cast, which I think made things a lot of fun, especially in this past stretch where we've seen like so many big players, so many big threats go home.
Well, Jeff said going into the challenge list episode, he's like 2 people from each starting tribe. That's what we love to see.
And the wild thing about it was, so I tweeted this out last week, right? That the 3 pairs were Carla and Cassidy, who were day one number ones, but also Carla just actively plotted against Cassidy. Owen and Gabler, who, as I talked about before, one complained incessantly about the other pre-merge. And Jesse and Cody are like, yeah, they're tight. They have 2 idols between them. They're fine. And look which pair did not survive the episode. That speaks to like the low-key calamity that has been occurring in this season. I do feel like this season is certainly rising, much like the tide in reputation. I feel like it will be looked upon
Hope
more
the tide doesn't go back down. Hope
yeah.
they don't. Yeah.
We'll see what happens with the winner, but I think this was just such a fun episode. The narrative from beginning to end, like such a cogent narrative to track, where I feel like everyone had a moment to play. I adored the sequence going into Tribal Council, where it felt like everyone had like a 2-second soundbite, right? Just being like, I have no idea what's going to happen. This is going to be a wild Tribal Council, ending with Cody ironically saying this is going to be the blind side of the season. It did. He didn't know it would be his own, and he'd need a walking stick after he got kneecapped by his ally there. So I just absolutely adored this episode. Should we push in our chips in here, Rob? Should we make like formal predictions as to how things are going to go? You don't need to watch it Wednesday night. We're about to map it all out for you.
Okay, so I think the big question is, okay, like 5, well, there's lots of big questions. Okay, what happens at 5, Mike?
I think 5, again, I'm going back to Ricard. I'm going back to Lindsay. I think it is fairly open and shut here, where if Carla doesn't win the immunity challenge, I think she's gone. I know that there's this talk about, okay, she's not as big of a threat in fire, but the plan that Jesse set up with Owen, very simple. We'll get rid of Cody now. We'll get rid of Carla next. I still think she's a threat. She was personified in this episode as the biggest threat left in the game. They're not going to let her slip by. So I think we're 3 for 3 on like very run-of-the-mill, tallest poppy left gets chopped at number 5.
I don't see it that same way, because I feel like that the game changed with the move that Jesse made, where I feel like that Carla is certainly like, I think that the way Jesse drew it up, yeah, okay, we got to take out Carla next at the final 5. But I feel like that Carla can go to Owen and Cassidy and Gable and say, y'all saw what Jesse just did last night, right? Like, Jesse's going to win. We need to get out Jesse. Look at me. I can't walk. My hand doesn't work. Okay. Let's take out Jesse. And they, I think, will, if Jesse doesn't win immunity, put their votes on Jesse and set up a scenario where Jesse plays his idol. Ben bombs this thing. Jesse casts the one vote. Now that one vote could be for Carla.
Yeah. And I think that would be a big thing as well, right? Like he has the ability to not only take out another big threat, but now the biggest threat left in the game single-handedly.
But I think Jesse recognizes that he needs to win an immunity challenge or make the fire at that point. And I think at that point, I think he keeps Carla in the game, because looking at, like, I think he's feeling like, I haven't won a challenge yet. Who can I beat? Carla can barely walk. Okay, I'm feeling better about my chances to beat out Carla. I felt like Owen is the 5th place finisher.
Okay, that's interesting. And I know that we've been asked, this is not true to our 2 narratives, but like, who should Jesse take out the final 5? IMO, if he has the sole vote, he should take out Cassidy.
Yeah. Okay. So let's keep going with our thought experiment.
With our divergent,
we might end up in the same place.
Yeah, with our everything everywhere all at once, right? We're splitting off multiverses here.
So your official vote was Carla is out at 5.
Yeah, and your vote is Owen at 5.
I think Owen, I'll say Owen goes out at 5. Okay. And then from there, we get down to 4. Okay. We have no sense of who's going to win the immunity challenge. Do you have a prediction on what the final immunity challenge will be?
Right, so you talked about this with Jamal, and I mapped this out on the 42 feedback show, right? That like
there's only 3 challenges they do, right?
Yeah, the final 4 challenge, we've been alternating between balancing the wobbly letters, Samotion, and sometimes we've done I think they call it like Operation Balance Ball, the one where you navigate the ball through the wobbly mechanism, and then you put it at the top to make the stack of balls. That's the one that Ken won in Millennials versus Gen X. So I have a feeling, and the challenges actually have been like kind of interesting this season, in that they've changed things up slightly. They've done things like do a bat puzzle instead of a fish puzzle. The very fun kind of janky dollar store idea of walk across the sand on the 2 blocks, which was, again, a little weird, but fun. So I would say, I don't know if we'll go back to the well on stacking the letters. I'm going to say we do, but I think it's going to involve the wobbly concept no matter what. So I think balance is key here.
Okay. So give us a name. Let's say who's going to win this challenge?
I would say, if it's balance, I would say Cassidy.
Okay, let's talk this through. A Cassidy win here at the final 4, and then what does Cassidy want to do. In my scenario, Owen is gone. In your scenario, Carla is gone. And so, what do you think that Cassidy would set up potentially for fire making?
I think Cassidy would want to take out Jesse, given what he just did with Carla, even if it was sort of like a unanimous vote. She obviously saw the way the jury reacted. And so I think she counts on Gabler as the better fire maker, as the more campy, outdoorsy, camo-wearing guy. And so I think she would send him in against Jesse. I don't think she's an Underwoody type at this point. Again, I think the way she puts herself out is much more of a subtle, don't need to be the loudest voice type of thing. And so I think she would more so do a trial by combat in a manner of speaking, right? And say, you are my mountain, take down this viper.
So Cassidy sets up a Gabler versus Jesse final three, fire making showdown. And so presumably Gabler wins and Jesse goes out on the fire?
I really don't want it to be, because Jesse as a winner, God, that'd be amazing. That would be so freaking awesome. And like, what a story that would tell, with no offense to any of the other players, but like, what a story that would tell for future players, right? Is this idea of, listen, you can win Survivor in a million ways, but it has been a while since I think we've seen someone win in a way that Jesse did, just ruthlessly without being ruthless on the surface at the same time.
I mean, certainly Tony in Winners at War was like on that level. But to have a dominant winner would, it's nice to have that once in a while.
Or a Wendelian winner, as it were. Yeah, it sounds like a shark with human teeth, right? Like it still can bite you, but you don't necessarily, you're just looking for the smile. You're looking at the pearly whites and nothing else. But I feel like, as much as we keep getting Jesse's narrative of like doing this for my family, I feel like that is blisteringly setting us up for him just falling short and being that fallen angel of like, I did all this stuff and it got me right there to the end and I couldn't make the fire to cross the finish line.
Okay. So Mike, in that scenario that you're giving us, where Jesse goes out at the final four and Carla got voted out. That gets us to the Cassidy win.
Yeah, the COG, the COG.
I don't know.
I don't know about that.
Everything you're saying takes sense, but I feel like it still requires a lot of cognitive dissonance on my part to say, after the, where they got a year to see like how the Erica story sat with people, to not like try to make Cassidy like there's no sense in hiding the winner. Like that's so unsatisfying for all parties involved to hide your winner. If anything, maybe if they are super dominant, maybe you want to hide them a little bit.
Which is interesting, because certainly something like the knowledge is power is like an example of perhaps hiding, like, and this was talked about a bit. I know when I talk with Noelle, and Noelle is saying things like, I jump off a cliff for Jesse, like at the time that I was voted out. I was definitely speculating like, oh, are they actually Sarah Lacina style, like dialing back a bit of how dominant Jesse is to make this a little more even? I could see another world where it is like a Jesse. Actually, I think the maybe another scenario I would envision here, I know I'm splitting off from my own splitting off, would be like if Owen loses at fire making, because that's also another ultimate Charlie Brown fare, right? Is like coming up just short before the final three and like almost checking the last thing off your Survivor bucket list. And we get a Gabler, Cassidy, Jesse final three. I could see Jesse taking it there while still throwing in some like, well, we got confessionals from Cassidy and Gabler that allude to maybe they could win, but we played down some elements of Jesse's game. I agree. It's tough to be like, Jesse doesn't win, but we also had a segment where Jesse literally does a checklist of a blind side. It's a tough thing to separate.
Okay. So I don't know. I still gotta say it's Jesse. It's just I can't talk myself into a pretzel.
So walk through your scenario here. So Owen goes out at 5. What happens at 4 for you?
Jesse wins immunity or makes the fire, like a Jeremy Collins in Second Chance wins that immunity, and then just like he needed it, he had to do it. He wins that immunity challenge, and ultimately goes to the final three. That I think that's like I understand all of the everything that is working against him, but that I'll make that my final prediction.
And who would you go out at 4 then? Who's sitting with Jesse in the final 3? Is it
Well,
an
I guess
final 3?
Well, I feel like at that point, like he's gonna put Carla into the fire. At that point, where he got rid of Owen, so he had a better chance to win the challenge, and then let Cassidy and Carla make the fire.
And that's interesting because then we sort of stumble upon the same final 3 then in that case of like the Jesse, Cassidy, Gabler thing. Because then that'd be interesting, right? Because then I think Cassidy, I could see her finishing in second for many reasons, like has some bonds, but then she could also make a case for herself, a la Deshawn a bit, right? Of like, look what I just did. I beat one of the biggest threats in the game. I have these immunity wins, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, we're sort of, though, I think, circling pretty much this binary drain, right? Like, I think it's Jesse or Cassidy at this point. I think the edit themselves have been fairly
I can see
even.
Carla also.
I think I can see Carla. I think Carla has the biggest uphill battle. I know we talked about this with like Jesse has to win fire, but we know at least Jesse can make it past final 5. We are not sure with Carla at this point.
Okay. All right. Let's start to wind this down. Mike, we've been all over the world. The time flew by here today.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, listen, we're going for longer than the 2-hour finale plus however many minute reunion that we'll experience.
Yeah.
If you sync this up, your 11 o'clock news will be starting around the time that this podcast finishes.
Yep. I got to get on ChatGPT. Got a lot more questions to talk to it about.
The way you say it sounds a lot like Chat Roulette, which is a very different.
Very different.
That's the monster.
That's the monster. Oh, maybe we should give one more survivors like Chat Roulette. Maybe.
Yeah, put that on there. Absolutely. I wonder if it knows about Chat Roulette.
We'll see. Maybe see if there's enough time before the end of the podcast.
It was just born this year, and I do feel like
I'm going to type this in while Mike Bloom starts doing his plug. So I think there's a good chance that we get an answer.
You can fit like 10 tweets in from that portion of time. Well, first off, thank you, Rob. This is always a ridiculous amount of fun, and I'm glad that we were able to break down what was a sterling episode of Survivor and an all-time move just from a magnanimity perspective. Get to break down what is like still a fairly wide open field when it comes to finales, talk about what has been, I think, a really growingly enjoyable season overall, and slowly allow AI to take us all over with its fantastic Survivor ideas. I think this has been a very beneficial podcast for humanity. And so I want to thank you for inviting me on to talk with you as always. Of course, this is not the first time we talked this week. You and I got to wrap up The Amazing Race 34, which was a really fun season of The Amazing Race alongside Jessica Leese. And you and I both did.
Nobody said Claire was an antagonist.
No, certainly not. And she definitely was a main character. Definitely not edited out from there. And so
although a few players did need a wonking stick by the end.
Could have used a few, definitely. Should have wrote racing on it, perhaps, to get them through there with the smiley face at the end of it. So you and I got to talk with Jessica Leese about that. And we did exit press respectively with the final 3 teams. I all thought were just such a fantastic cast. One interview brought me to tears, maybe for the first time since I've ever interviewed anybody in the past 5 years. I thought they were absolutely fantastic interviews with fantastic teams. Of course, I got to interview Cody. This is where we found out this information about this just wild knowledge is power seed that Jesse planted, which again, like we haven't focused enough on. I absolutely adore not only that, but to have the gall to be like, I'm going to drop it and I'm going to walk away, right? The fact that Jesse didn't ask for the idol back, that something grew in Cody's mind, that he eventually gave it back to him, is just a masterful move.
He was freaking out that Jesse didn't give it back to him.
Yeah, it's this idea of like, wait, Jesse had the right call of if he's asking for it, you want to play hard to get in a manner of speaking. And he ended up getting Cody and his idol right in his pocket there. So you find that out about from Cody, as well as a lot of other really introspective things about him. Like the fact that, surprisingly, all the way in the beginning after the NECA vote, like that really changed his game. I don't think we experienced it at the time, but like that seemed to be something that kind of ruined him. I always love the let's say, stony baloney types on Survivor, just because of like how goofy they can be. But Cody was so different to me. Like I know you got this sense from the interview with him too, Rob. Like he felt kind of broken. And I think we don't really recognize that. I think this week has kind of been ensconced in what a move that Jesse made. That, as Steven talked about, like, I don't think we focus a lot on how rough it was, but also like how kind of traumatizing it was for Cody. Cody told me, he's like, I can't wait to watch this season back because like I haven't been really paying attention. I've just been thinking about this episode in the back of my head. And the more you think about it, yeah, it's just a game, but like this was an incredibly personal move that was done to him. And so I thought Cody had a lot of self-introspection that came across. Of course, I'm going to be doing Exit Press with the final 5 as well. I think the plan at the moment is I'm going to be talking to the final 3 the night of, and then maybe 4th and 5th place the next day. But within the 24 hours after the finale, that'll all be up at parade.com. And then over on post-show recaps, I'm doing the Heroes coverage with Josh. We just saved the cheerleader. Will we save the world? Only time will tell. And speaking of time, we are encountering on a new project in PSR, the best of 2022, where we are taking a time jump through all the shows that were covered in this long, long year of 2022 and doing various podcasts on them. I'm appearing on quite a few. I'm doing like a superhero roundup, a roundup on Star Wars, Westworld. I'm covering Lord of the Rings, a couple of other things as well. And that actually brings me all the way back to RHAP. I don't want to tease too much. I suppose next time on RHAP. But look, these have been, in my opinion, banner years for reality television, especially Big Brother, Survivor, The Amazing Race. And I think we're perhaps looking for opportunities similar to post-show recaps to summarize the year, to look at how this year was in these shows, to look ahead possibly to what comes next. And of course, speaking of the end of the year, Rob, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say, as the calendar turns from December to January, a brand steal will be in your feeds eventually. And I think it will be a fun time.
It's a tradition.
Yeah, and like it's been such a long year. Wordle was in this year, Rob. That's how long this year has been. So lots of stuff coming down the pike. Count your chimney for this year. Santa is not malevolent with his jury full of engorged reindeer or whatever he said. But you can check out everything I do at a Mike Bloom type. And I'm thrilled to be here talking about such a stellar episode of a really fun season with, what'd you say, a sturdy chat to back us up.
Look, we had over 300 people watching this. Yeah.
My God, this is RHAP. Their comments will block out the sun.
And they're not chat bots. Okay. Yes, Dominic, what's going on? Just what's that? What are you saying? Okay, well let me finish to wrap up this podcast. Okay,
I did have my own son knocking on the door, calling my name before, so I think we both experienced.
He wants to know when I'm done. Do I want to play Madden? Of course I do.
Now, do you use waiver wires in there, or do you use Fab? I really did enjoy the fantasy football nut. I really did enjoy that argument. I am personally Team Fab. Over team
of course
wire.
You have to be.
Absolutely.
You have to be. It's the new era. Everybody's gonna be on Fab. It's the only way to do it.
Honestly, I think had they gone ahead with season 41 as it was originally planned pre-pandemic and like brought back fire tokens, like I could see a bit of like
blind auction,
Survivor Fab, right? Like bring back the auction.
Survivor hates auctions, Okay, bring back the free agent auction. Okay, all right. Then we have so much stuff going on over on RHAP. Mike mentioned the Amazing Race coverage. We kicked off the coverage of Too Hot to Handle. Over with the Hot Dummies on Islands. Kirsten McInnes is going to have all of the Hot Dummies coverage. We're still podcasting about The Real Love Boat. Chappelle and I are going to watch one of the top movies on Netflix called Troll this weekend.
Not Troll 2?
Not Troll 2. Different movie called Troll. But Mike, thank you for doing this. This is such a highlight of the Survivor season. And it's so great anytime I get to make these podcasts with you. So thank you for being just everything about you. I am always just in awe of getting to podcast with you. And to Jesse, whether or not he wins the game, this was the week Jesse became a Survivor legend. And no matter whenever Survivor decides to do a returning player season at any point in the next couple of years, one of the first people that they will give a call to will be Jesse, win or lose. And so he solidified his place in Survivor lore with what he did this week. And so we will find out on Wednesday if he's able to go all the way.
Finish the job.
But there are winners of this show who are not remembered. There are winners of this show who come along and did their thing and are never thought of again. Jesse will not be one of those players, win or lose. And so
even the most simple minds will say, don't you forget about Jesse. And I would go so far as to say, a year from now, Rob, when you and I are fortunate enough to hopefully do preseason questions for the Survivor 45 contestants, and we ask, what's your favorite moment in Survivor history? I think at least one is going to say Jesse playing Cody's idol and voting him out. I think a new legendary Survivor move has been cemented.
Jesse shaking, or Cody shaking Jesse's hand after he got blindsided. Like it was.
Or Carla chasing Cody around with the wonky stick.
Yep. Or the esteemed businessman Gabler, then at the last second, changing things up on Jesse.
Or the jury of reindeer giving the award, the win between the Scrooge, the Grinch, and the Cinderella to the Cinderella, truly making it a Cinderella story.
So many great moments or the wife being stolen with the knowledge is power. Just so many great iconic moments.
We
real and imagined.
We filled an entire slate of Consumer Cellular commercials for the next season. You're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate everybody who stuck around for all this. We love to hear from you. We're still on Twitter. I'm at Rob Cesternino. Mike is at a Mike Bloom type. We'll be reading your comments. And please let us know that you came along for this crazy ride. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.